Chapter 963. The last cave wasn't large, but it was more exquisite than the others. It could be said that it was the most exquisite place in the entire cave, and the entire cave was protected by a special immortal technique. It didn't show any signs of decay. There was a black stone table, a black stone chair, and a black stone bed. The stone bed and chair were covered with black and white spirit beast skins. Spotted bear skin, Shen Ming exclaimed. Huh. Suemo laughed and said, Now, you can rest assured. The spotted bear outside the cave is most likely not the guardian spirit beast of the ENC lineage. Then how did it learn ENC immortal techniques? Shen Ming asked. I don't know either. Sumo said, but the ENC lineage definitely wouldn't skin their own spirit beasts. The spotted bear outside most likely learned Tao on its own. It might have secretly learned ENC immortal techniques, but it's more likely that Murong Haiqing was happy and passed on an immortal technique to it. And that spotted bear knows how to repay kindness, so it's guarding the cave. That makes sense. Shenming nodded and gave Sumo a thumbs up. It didn't matter if that was the case or not. What mattered was that Sumo's explanation relieved Shun Ming of any psychological burden. The spotted bear wasn't an ENC divine beast. That way, the meat would taste better later, wouldn't it? Wang Yu nodded. In fact, Sumo's guess was quite reasonable. If that striped bear really was a blue sea spirit beast, then no matter which striped bear it was, it wouldn't have been skinned. Furthermore, Wang Yu also felt that the spotted bear was too silly, so it wasn't suitable to be an Azure Sea spirit beast. An ENC spirit beast should be a noble existence like the white dragon. The walls of the cave were as smooth as mirrors. Two paintings hung on one of the walls. One of them depicted a middle-aged female cultivator with a gentle expression, her fairy robes fluttering in the wind. It was Magus Vast Sea, the 98th generation successor of the ENC ancient flow. The portrait next to her was of a young man with delicate features dressed in a green robe. The corner of the young man's mouth curled up slightly. His eyes were bright and warm, but his expression carried a kind of natural arrogance, because he was a peerless genius of the three realms, Shunlang. Magu Shinro. Sumo looked at the portrait and couldn't help but smile faintly. This is their portrait. Wow, Shenming said as he looked at the portrait of Shunlang. Then, he said to Wang Yu, Sister, was father so handsome and gentle back then? Of course, Wang Yu said with certainty. You're bragging. Shenming couldn't help but pout. As if you've seen it before? Hee hee. Wang Yu laughed. Why? Isn't father handsome and gentle now? Shenming stared at Wang Yu and said, Sis, is there something wrong with your ghost eye? Do those 8 words have anything to do with father now? Wang Yu continued to laugh. Ming-er, you have to see father's inner qualities and essence. That way you won't get scolded so much. Actually, you're not bad. Brother AMU was beaten by father since he was young. When he was young, his skin was lacerated and blood flowed. Shenming laughed expressionlessly. What you saw was either Devil Lang or Wang Ju. Sumo looked at the painting and sighed. And the one in the painting is Shun Lang. The immortal demon 3 lives art combines immortal, demon, and mortal into one, but each is different. Shun Lang occupies all the sunlight, and Mo Lang is tainted with too much killing intent. Wang Ju, on the other hand, has seen through 3 lives and 3 lives. Lung Yu is dead, so no one in this world will be able to see Shun Lang's appearance again. Father still owes martial Aunt Lung Yu. However, it shouldn't be the love between a man and a woman, but more like a brother and sister. After all, he didn't guard Sacred Mountain at all, Wang Yu said. Lung Yu definitely won't blame him. Sumo smiled faintly. Otherwise, she wouldn't hang 2 portraits here to express her love. Back then, when I possessed Li Hen and left, Sacred Mountain was shattered. Lung Yu should have suffered the greatest blow, because she lost the meaning of cultivation. Guarding was her mission. Wang Yu and Shun Ming were silent, because Sumo was right. The meaning of the ancient vast sea flow's existence was to suppress Li Hen and protect the 3 realms. However, AMU shattered the karma, and the three realms turned into a galaxy. Lungyu didn't know where to go. Therefore, she had been immersed in the past. Otherwise, she wouldn't have recreated the structure of Sacred Mountain here. Everything that happened in the three realms became a demon barrier that she couldn't melt. Therefore, death was a kind of release for her. Ming-er, actually you and I are the same. Wang Yu looked at Shun Ming and said, we are also obsessed with the past. Otherwise, how could there be reincarnation? Shun Ming nodded. Obsessions. They were all terrifying obsessions. However, this obsession was their courage to live. At this moment, Sumo had already walked to the stone table. This was because there was a rectangular box on the stone table. That box was made of jade. However, Sumo didn't open it. He probably couldn't open it. He didn't have the vast sea immortal chi. Wang Yu walked closer and waved his hand. The jade box opened. There were only two things in it: an extremely exquisite black jade slip and half a bear skin. Wang Yu picked up the jade slip and scanned it with his divine sense. His expression changed slightly. There are 3,600 immortal techniques in the vast seas. They are all in there. Although Murong Haiqing had mentioned in the message, Wang Yu was still shocked. It seemed that she was wrong before. It was not that Lung Yu didn't have the ability to remember all the vast sea immortal arts, but in the end, she chose to carve them in one place instead of using the Sacred Mountain model. We will hand this jade slip to my father soon. Wang Yu looked at Shun Ming. Shun Ming listened and nodded, because they all had a secret method that could directly connect to the Galaxy Village. This jade slip could be sent back very quickly. Then, Wang Yu picked up the other half of the bearskin. It was naturally still the bear skin, but had been carefully processed. There was a faint brilliance on its surface, and it was densely marked with many stars. It was an extremely detailed star map. The most important thing was that it accurately marked the location of the Southern Abyss Sea, as well as many dark worlds in the Southern Galaxy. That was definitely not on the Lucky Light star map. Wang Yu waved his hand and gave it to Sumo. This is what we need. That's right. Sumo said, with this star map, we can check those dark worlds one by one to see if there are any clues about AMU. At the same time, we can head to the Southern Abyss Sea. Murong Haiqing might be there too. Wang Yu nodded. Keep that star map well. We will make some adjustments here, and then we can set off. This time, we will head to the Southern Abyss Sea according to the star map. At the same time, we will check the dark worlds one by one. That's right. Shun Ming suddenly said very seriously, Demon King, sister, is this decided? Okay. Sumo nodded. Look at you. Do you have any other ideas? Wang Yu said, I just wanted to ask, since we have decided, should we roast the bear or stew it? How do you like to eat it? As he spoke, Shun Ming stretched out his hand and threw out a piece of spotted bear meat that weighed a few hundred kilograms. Boom! Chapter 964. There are no updates for One Hidden Samsara today. Sorry. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 965. Shun Ming's actions were domineering enough. However, he was immediately knocked on the head by Wang Yu. Go and take the second cave abode. Is this also the place where you cook? Oh. Shun Ming did not dare to disobey and waved his hand aggrievedly. The piece of meat was directly teleported to the second cave abode. Shun Ming's figure moved, and he also went to the second cave abode. Wang Yu and Sumo follow behind. How can we finish such a big piece of meat? Sumo asked. Hee hee. Wang Yu laughed. Demon King, you don't know Ming-er's culinary skills. The meat she makes will definitely not be this big. Oh. Sumo was a little curious. Looking again, in the second cave abode, Shun Ming had already taken out a pot from his storage bag. The pot was not too big. It was 3 feet in diameter, completely black, and covered with runes. At the same time, Shun Ming took out all kinds of things, including all kinds of dining utensils. At that moment, Sumo could not help but sigh. Shun Ming brought a kitchen with him. Whoosh! Finally, Shun Ming took out the big kitchen knife that was more than 10 feet long. The big kitchen knife danced like the wind. In Shun Ming's hands, the big knife was as flexible as an ordinary kitchen knife. In an instant, the hundreds of kilograms of bear meat was directly cut into almost identical 3-inch pieces. They were all floating in the void, and it was a spectacular sight. Sure enough, there was a specialization in every field. Su-emo gasped in amazement. Shinming put away the knife, calm and composed. Then, she made a seal with both hands and watched as the 3-inch pieces were all thrown into the pot in an orderly manner. Unknowingly, there was already water in the pot. Moreover, there was no flame under the black pot, but it automatically generated heat. Poof, poof, the meat pieces were like rainbows. However, as soon as they fell into the pot, they directly turned into nothingness. Looking at the water in the pot, it gradually turned milky white. Drinking soup? Sumo said. This is probably just a part of the process. Wang Yu said from the side, Don't worry, Ming Er's final product will still be meat, just not the original meat. Oh, Sumo laughed. Interesting. After the bear meat was put into the pot, Shun Ming waved his hand. Streaks of green light flew out and enveloped the entire black wok. Bear meat stewed with immortal energy from the vast seas? Suemo was speechless when he saw this. Inside the black pot, the soup was boiling and steam was rising continuously. However, they were all sealed inside by Shun Ming's inner sea chi and did not leak out in the slightest. Moreover, Sumo felt that the water vapor seemed to be gradually condensing. More than 4 hours passed. Wang Yu seemed to be very experienced and was already meditating at the side. She knew that it would take at least 20 hours for Shun Ming to cook this pot of meat. Sumo, on the other hand, was quite interested and kept watching. Anyway, this bit of time was like a snap of the fingers for the mighty figures of the venerable realm. More than 4 hours passed. Sumo saw that the soup in the pot had turned from milky white to light green. It seemed that the inner sea chi had begun to merge into the soup. Then, she looked at Shun Ming's hands moving at the same time. A gap appeared in the inner sea chi. Just now, the things that it took out from the storage bag entered through the gap. Sumo did not know what those things were, but they all carried a strange fragrance. Among them, there seemed to be all kinds of dried fruits, side dishes, and seasonings. With a simple glance, Sumo knew that there were more than 40 to 50 kinds of seasonings. Shun Ming had definitely made a feast. Oof. Like Sumo, the little white pig was also staring blankly. At this moment, the little fellow's eyes were wide open, and it was motionless. It seemed to have completely forgotten that Shun Ming wanted to eat it. Instead, it was thinking about whether it could share a bowl of soup with it later. For a moment, it drooled and almost wet Sumo's clothes. At this moment, the entire second cave abode was filled with the fragrance of the meat soup. However, Shun Ming had used an immortal technique to seal the entire second cave abode. Everything here would definitely not affect the third cave abode. Shun Ming was already sitting cross-legged in front of the black pot. She changed the hand seal again, and the inner sea chi on the black pot had already begun to fade. It seemed to have turned from a big fire to a small one. Another 8 hours passed. The color of the soup in the black pot had already turned green and purple, and it looked a little wavy. Unbeknownst to him, chunks of meat had already appeared in the pot. They were still 3 inches in size, but the quantity was far less than before. Sumo could not help but frown and wonder how Shun Ming did it. Does it look interesting? At some point, Wang Yu had already opened her eyes and looked at Sumo in boredom, because she could see that Sumo had actually been looking at the pot of bear meat that Shun Ming was cooking. Hee hee. Sumo laughed and said, It is indeed interesting. How'd she do it? The spotted bear meat was clearly gone. For an honorable realm practitioner, they can create something out of nothing and turn nothingness into reality. Don't tell me that Ming Er's little technique can hide from your eyes? Wang Yu said, create something out of nothing, turn nothingness into reality? When Sumo heard Wang Yu's words, she could not help but frown and said, But Shun Ming did not create something out of nothing. Previously, she had put a lot of spotted bear meat in it. Hee hee. Wang Yu laughed and said, Actually, the moment the meat was put into the black pot, it had already disappeared. What you're looking at now is no longer a simple spotted bear meat. It just looks a little like it. Oh. Sumo listened thoughtfully, but did not say anything else. Another 4 hours passed. Shun Ming's hand seal changed again, and at this time, The vast sea, immortal chi was completely gone. Shinming pinched with one hand, and instantly, a blue flame flew out from his fingertip. Whoosh! The netherworld fire directly burned under the black pot. Sizzle, sizzle. The water in the black pot boiled and quickly evaporated. However, the water vapor did not leave the pot, but lingered in the pot. Soon, the entire black pot was filled with water vapor, and there were actually only 9 pieces of bare meat left in the pot. However, they were no longer in a square shape, but had all become spherical. They were still 3 inches in diameter and looked like extra-large meatballs. Congealed snow. Shinming suddenly cast a spell again. Just now, she suddenly retracted the ghost fire that she had released. Then, the water vapor actually began to rapidly retract. Sizzle, sizzle. It suddenly landed on the 9 large meatballs, covering them like frost and snow. Shinming waved his hand, and immediately, 3 jade plates flew out. The jade plates had colorful side dishes on them. At the same time, there were 3 large meatballs in the middle. Snow Lion's head? Wang Yu looked at it and laughed. No, Shinming shook his head. This is called Spotted Bear Snow Jade Ball. It's smooth but not greasy and delicious. Most importantly, this snow jade ball is comparable to a reincarnation grade top-notch immortal pill. Sister, try it first. Shinming directly brought it to Wang Yu. At this time, the little white pig looked at it eagerly. There were a total of 3 plates. How could it have a share? It could only look at Sumo. Sumo had 3, so she could probably give it one. Sumo also took Shinming's jade plate. However, he was still deep in thought. I think I know the secret of the existence of the Dark Realm, Sumo said as she looked at the spotted bear snow jade ball in her hand. Chapter 966. The Secret of the Dark World's Existence. Wang Yu and Shinming stilled. What secret? Shinming asked as he ate the snow jade ball on his plate. The spirit food she made was simply too delicious. The banxiao meat lived up to its name, creating something out of nothing, turning nothing into reality. Sumo looked at the spotted bear snow jade ball in her hand. Oh, huh. Wang Yu was amused. Isn't that the method I told you about Ming Er's cooking method? Why did you think of the Dark World? I just happened to think of it, Sumo said. Although we have a part of the Dark World star map of the glazed white star region, I'm very curious. However, I was curious as to how Murong Haiqing found them. She's definitely not in the Lotus Realm, and she doesn't have ghost eyes or demon eyes. However, she has the Nining body, so she should be naturally sensitive to cold air, Sumo continued. The parasitic stars of the Dark World have always existed alongside the stars. The 4 voids once said that if the Sangharama star is destroyed, then the 4 void star will turn from darkness to light. From the perspective of the light world, the dark star doesn't exist at all. This means that it's creating something out of nothing, turning nothing into reality. The stars exist to protect and hide the dark star. They are of the same origin, just like how this snow jade ball came from the banxiao meat. Wang Yu and Shinming were still listening and pondering. The little white pig nodded in agreement. In reality, it didn't understand what Sumo was saying at all. It was just trying to please its master. At the same time, it sneakily poked its head out, opened its mouth, and sucked a snow jade ball. The moment the snow jade ball entered its mouth, the little white pig's eyes lit up. It hummed in delight. There was something so delicious in the world. It was even better than the immortal fruits in the soul storage altar. Master had taken back that stupid bird. It was a pity it didn't get to enjoy it. The little white pig was secretly delighted. Sumo saw the little white pig eating secretly, but she did not care about it. No matter how delicious these things were, they were still spirit food. Sumo was not very interested in them. You're right, but how would that help us? Wang Yu also began to eat the snow jade ball, but she was familiar with Shinming's cooking, so she wasn't too surprised. She only took a bite and nodded with satisfaction. First, the so-called Dark World is very likely a world deliberately created by a Tibetan Almighty. I still couldn't guess their ultimate goal, but it was definitely their power. Secondly, finding the Dark World might be related to sensing the cold air. Now that I think about it, The warmth of the spirit chi on Planet 4 Void is indeed lower than on Planet Sangorama, Sumo said. Yes. Shunming had half a dumpling in his mouth. He nodded and said incoherently, "Now that you mention it, I remember now." The stars in the sky became even colder. There's only a blue moon hanging high in the sky. Because the dark world has a black lotus that absorbs heat, Wang Yu said. At the same time, all its light and spirit chi comes from planet Sangorama. Its temperature is indeed lower. In other words, in the future, if we pay attention to the surroundings of some stars, if there's a special change in the cold air around it, it is very likely that there's a dark world star. I think this is probably the method that Murong Haiqing used to mark the many dark worlds, Sumo said. Umph. The little white pig nodded again. Then it opened his mouth again, ready to steal another snow jade ball. Whoosh! But this time, the moment it stuck its head out, a large knife appeared on top of its head. It was Shunming's large kitchen knife. The cold light was dense, and the cold air was overflowing. Humph! The little white pig was so scared that it trembled, and tears almost fell down. Was it necessary? I stole 2 dumplings and was almost beheaded. Demon King, are the dumplings that I made not delicious? Shunming held the knife horizontally in one hand and a plate in the other as he said to Sumo, "You actually want to feed pigs? I'm not a pig. I'm a Dracophant soul-devouring beast." The little white pig shouted in its heart while trembling. It didn't dare to roar anymore. Otherwise, if the beautiful butcher raised her knife, its owner might not even be able to save it in time, and it would become the next plate of snow jade ball. Thinking of this, the little white pig shuddered and went straight into Sumo's arms, aggrieved, and didn't dare to show its head again. Eating was important, but its life was more important. Hee hee. Sumo laughed, then picked up a snow jade ball and put it in her mouth. As expected, it was smooth but not greasy, and left a fragrance in her mouth. Moreover, traces of spirit chi entered her danci. Shunming was right. Its spirit food was comparable to rebirth great elixirs. Lady Ming's spirit food is indeed top-notch. Sumo praised. That's more like it. Shunming was elated when he heard this and kept his knife. At the same time, she kept some of her kitchen utensils. The 3 of them enjoyed their own delicacies. The spotted bear snow jade ball was definitely the best of the spirit food. The spirit chi essence was all condensed in the 9 snow jade balls. After the meal, the 3 of them meditated and rested in the second cave abode. They were prepared to stay for a few days to rest. 3 days later, they left Cloud, Desolate Planet, and headed straight for Southern Abyss Sea, according to the more detailed star map that Murong Haiqing had left behind. Dark World was marked on Mu Qinghai's star map. Therefore, as long as there was no Dark World, the 3 of them would just pass by. The 3 of them passed by in a flash. Some of the stars that were further away from their flight path, they didn't even bother to go over. There were many stars that were as vast as the ocean, and it wasn't easy to have such good luck like Cloud Desolate Planet. From Cloud Desolate Planet to Southern Abyss Sea, there were a total of 13 dark worlds marked on Murong Haiqing's star map. Sumo and the other 2 spent 30 years and went through 12 dark worlds. But they didn't find anything. Of course, for safety reasons, they didn't destroy these dark worlds. After all, there would definitely be a Lotus Warrior behind the dark worlds. Sumo and the rest were more concerned about finding AMU. Therefore, they didn't want to alert the enemy. More importantly, they wanted to ensure their own safety. The pattern of the appearance of dark worlds was the same as Sumo had predicted. Indeed, the existence of every dark star would cause the surrounding temperature to drop. This was indeed a good way to find dark stars, but not every star with a drop in temperature would have a dark world. It could only be said that the chances were higher. Every dark star had a different way of entering, but the 3 of them had finally searched all of them. Unfortunately, there were no clues about AMU at all. Far away in the starry sky was the final world with a dark star they were about to enter, the 5 Poison World. 5 Poison World had a total of 5 stars. They formed an almost perfect pentagon, and in the center of the pentagon, there was a dark star, 5 Poison Star. And at this moment, on a tall mountain in 5 Poison Star, stood a cultivator in gray clothes. He was skinny and tall, and his figure was lonely. Second swordsman. He had been searching for Sumo for a full 30 years. Chapter 9, 67. The 5 stars of the 5 Poison Star realm were the immortal Scorpion Star, the venomous Snake Star, the Centipede Star, the Gecko Star, and the Toad Star. The 5 Poison Star was marked on both the Lucky Light Star map and Murong Haiching Star map. Murong Haiching Star map also marked the 5 Poison Star in the middle of the 5 stars. However, it did not explain how to enter the 5 Poison Star, nor did it indicate which star the 5 Poison Star was a parasitic star. That was because only by finding the star with the parasitic star could they enter the Dark Star realm from that star. Sumo and the others had to find it themselves. Sumo's soul sense spread out, enough to cover the entire 5 Poison Star realm. However, the temperature around the 5 stars was almost the same. Perhaps with Murong Haiching's nining body, he could tell the minute difference between them. However, Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shun Ming could not sense the difference. It's possible for the 5 stars. Sumo said, looks like this 5 Poison Star is a little special. We can only check them one by one. The Lucky Light Star map was marked. 5 poisons, 5 stars, many sections. The highest sects were named after the stars. The highest realm was the peak of Rebirth realm. The cultivators were good at using poison, so be careful. The peak of Rebirth realm. That was the cultivators on the 5 stars. As for the Dark Star and the 5 Poison Star, there would definitely be venerables. Right now, the immortal Scorpion Star was the closest to them. As a result, Sumo's Lotus platform moved, heading straight for the immortal Scorpion Star. The main body of the immortal Scorpion Star was a long and flat star. However, it was surrounded by a dozen floating continents. From afar, those floating continents and the main star really did form a scorpion floating in space. Are there many scorpions on the immortal Scorpion Star? Shunming suddenly asked. Most likely, Sumo said. Also, those scorpions should not be the ordinary kind, but the spiritual scorpions. You should know that ordinary scorpions cannot harm cultivators at all. Shunming said, then the other 4 stars probably have other spiritual poisons as well. So, we still have to be careful. The 5 poisons used by grand cultivators are definitely not easy to deal with. Sumo said. It's okay, Shunming said. My sister can summon the enchantment of fantasy flowers, so she can deal with the so-called 5 poisons. Spirit scorpions could be fried. If I can gather the 5 poisons, I can make a 5 poison soup. Sumo was speechless. It turned out that Shunming's question just now was all about eating and not about how to avoid risks. All of the 5 poisons are excellent spirit food. Although they couldn't compare to the spotted bear, they were still absolutely delicious. If we can meet the king among them, we can even refine supreme-grade elixirs, Shunming said seriously. But I always feel that refining elixirs is a waste because the taste is not good. Wang Yu didn't say anything, because Shunming never practiced alchemy. There was only one reason the pill tasted bad. The spirit food that Shunming made was comparable to immortal pills, so there was indeed no need to refine elixirs. Hee. Sumo could only laugh. Looks like we're in luck again. Of course. Shunming took care of everything. Demon King. As long as you can get the ingredients, I'll take care of everything else. Okay. Sumo nodded. As they spoke, they had already landed on the immortal Scorpion Star. On the immortal Scorpion Star, there were over 100 sections. Among them, the largest sect was naturally the immortal Scorpion sect. The place that the 3 of them chose to stay was near the Scorpion sect. This place was a chain of mountains. The immortal Scorpion Mountain had a circumference of 1,000 miles and was also shaped like a scorpion. And the immortal Scorpion sect's headquarters was at the head of the immortal Scorpion. Sumo was still dressed as a middle-aged man in black. Wang Yu and Shunming were still dressed in green. Currently, their realms were controlled at the first or second stage of Rebirth realm. This realm was relatively easy to solve problems. It wasn't the strongest, but it definitely wasn't weak. In the moment Sumo and the other 2 entered the immortal Scorpion Mountain sect area, they were already discovered. Actually, this was the intention of Sumo and the other two. After all, no matter if it was Jiguang star map or Murong Haiching star map, they were all star maps. They didn't have many records of the immortal Scorpion star's interior. Instead of Sumo and the other two searching, it was better to lure the great cultivators here. Previously, they had also used this method. Only then could they enter the dark world. Therefore, Sumo and the other two were already prepared. Whoosh! In a moment, 5 cultivators dressed in green and brown robes appeared in front of them. The one leading was a middle-aged man. His eyes were actually also green and brown. From the looks of it, it was filled with poison. The third stage of Rebirth Realm. Behind him, there were 4 cultivators, 2 males and 2 females, all at the first stage of Rebirth Realm. Fellow Taoists, where are you from? The middle-aged man in the lead slightly cupped his hands towards Sumo and the other two, but his tone was rather cold. Fellow Taoists, please. Sumo cupped her hands and returned the greeting. The 3 of us are cultivators from another world, traveling around the White South Star region and passing by the Immortal Mountain. We heard that there are spirit scorpions here. An elder in our sect has been sick for many years. My brother and sister wish to ask for one to be used in medicine. We hope that fellow Taoist can guide us. Cultivators from another world? That middle-aged cultivator said, May I ask which world and sect you 3 are from? Blue Mountain World, Greenwood Sect. Sumo answered calmly, because this was a small world that they had passed by earlier. The world name, as well as the sect name, were all real. Moreover, that Blue Mountain World was 6 small worlds away from here, and there was no dark star. Sumo deduced that there wouldn't be too close of a connection between them. Oh, hee. Very obviously, that middle-aged cultivator had heard of Blue Mountain World's Greenwood sect. Fellow Taoists, do you have any proof? I have a sect medallion here with me. Fellow Taoist, please take a look. With that, Sumo directly took out a token from her storage bag, and with a shake of her hand, she sent it to the middle-aged cultivator. That token was also real, but Sumo had taken it from a Rebirth Realm cultivator of the Greenwood sect. The middle-aged cultivator took the token and scanned it with his divine sense. Actually, he couldn't really determine whether this token was from the Greenwood sect, but he could determine that this token was indeed from the glazed White South Star region. This was because the material of this token was a special kind of immortal wood. That immortal wood could only be found in the glazed White South Star region, and almost all the large sects in the entire White South Star region use it to make tokens, but the patterns and runes on it were deliberately different. I am from the Immortal Scorpion sect. That middle-aged cultivator waved his hand and returned the token to Sumo. Greenwood sect's Murong Huan. Sumo turned back and introduced, These are my 2 junior sisters, Wang Yu and Shun Ming. Excuse me. Wu Daoyong pondered for a moment, then said, Our sect will definitely have the spirit scorpions that you requested. However, the higher the level of the spirit scorpion, the more precious it is. Our sect will not easily give it to others. Hearing this, Sumo immediately understood. Fellow Taoist Wu, don't worry. As long as we have the spirit scorpion that we need, we will definitely satisfy your sect, and we will also satisfy fellow Taoist Wu. With that, Sumo directly took out an immortal pill from her bosom. Reincarnation pill. This pill no longer had any value to Wu Taoist, but it was still rather precious. He could definitely give it to a junior who was about to break through. This kind of pill was enough to prove Sumo's sincerity, and at the same time, it would not cause the other party to covet it too much. Ha ha ha! Wu Daoyong could not help but laugh when he saw this, and he did not stand on ceremony, and directly kept the pill. Fellow Taoist Su is straightforward. Let's go, please. I will help you choose a spirit scorpion. Chapter 968. The hidden samsara is still not updated today. Currently typing. Please wait a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 969. Immortal Scorpion Sect within 1,000 miles. Wu Daoyong led Sumo and the rest to an immortal bazaar. That bazaar was a man-made flat ground between 2 mountains. It was 700 meters in all directions, and was paved with bluestone. This bazaar was the internal market of the immortal scorpion sect. At the same time, cultivators from other places of the immortal scorpion planet came here to trade. Thus, this could be considered a first-class immortal bazaar of the immortal scorpion planet. Wu Daoyong scanned the bazaar from a front. Dao friend Morong, this bazaar might not have everything, but it is definitely a first-class immortal bazaar of the immortal scorpion planet. Whatever you want, it should not be a problem. Thank you, Dao friend Wu, Sumo said politely. The immortal bazaar was very lively. There were many cultivators bustling about. There were also many flying artifacts in the void. Actually, this was the first time Sumo and the rest saw the glazed white immortal bazaar of the Southern Star region. Previously, there were not many immortal bazaars like this in the star regions they had traveled to. There were many things here that they had never seen before. Although their levels were not very high, they had never seen them before. It was really a feast for the eyes. Wu Daoyong felt proud when he saw the three's expressions. After all, the Five Poison Realm had always boasted of its vast territory and abundant resources. Since the otherworldly cultivators came here, they naturally had to display their strength. Sumo secretly paid attention and found that the majority of the cultivators in this bazaar were at realm destruction and sea annihilation. Occasionally, there were some mortals with rebirth-level cultivators following them. Presumably, those mortals were Fifth Blight cultivators. The Immortal Bazaar was indeed lively, but this level did not seem to be enough to satisfy Sumo and the rest. Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shen Ming exchanged glances and reached a tacit understanding. There probably would not be too many clues about the Dark Realm in this bazaar, because only rebirth-level cultivators could get involved with the Dark Realm. However, rebirth-level cultivators in this bazaar were already the top. Therefore, on the one hand, they maintained a positive and novel attitude, but they never stopped at any of the stalls, as if there was nothing that could catch their attention. They looked at everything and shook their heads. At a stall selling spirit scorpions, Sumo was frowning. In fact, the spirit scorpions, they were already pretty good. It was enough to refine reincarnation-level pills. However, Sumo and the others had ulterior motives. The people they wanted to interact with were people who were related to the Dark World. Naturally, Wu Daoist saw all of this. Daoist Morong, are these spirit scorpions not enough? AI. Sumo shook her head. Fellow Daoist Wu, we've actually seen this kind of spirit scorpion before. However, the illness of the elders in the sect was quite strange. Only the spirit scorpion king could cure it. Otherwise, the two of us wouldn't have crossed over to come here. The spirit scorpions just now were not bad, but they were not of the highest quality. Oh, Wu Daoyong also frowned. Top quality spirit scorpion king, even in my immortal scorpion star, it is extremely rare. Of course. Sumo shook her head and sighed. If our immortal scorpion star doesn't have it, then the entire White South Star territory wouldn't have it. I'm afraid we'll have to look for it in other star regions. Fellow Daoist Wu, if your sect has it, the price can be negotiated. We can also exchange it with other items. Sumo continued. To be honest, I have a venerable divine weapon with me. As long as we find a suitable spirit scorpion king, my Greenwood sect is willing to exchange it with a venerable divine weapon. Hearing this, Wu Daoyong couldn't help but ponder. From the looks of it, he most likely had a channel, but it was a little difficult. Fellow Daoist Wu, if you really have a way, I'm willing to give you a reincarnation-level immortal pill after it's done. Maybe it can help you advance further. Sumo added fuel to the fire. Really? Wu Daoyong's eyes lit up, because he had been stuck at the rebirth realm for millions of years, unable to break through. We're all reincarnation-level cultivators. How can we joke? Sumo said. Fellow Daoist Morong. Wu Daoyong cupped his fist towards Sumo. The Five Poison Realm is far from the Blue Mountain Realm, but I've heard that the Blue Mountain Greenwood sect specializes in alchemy. If fellow Daoist Morong can really help me advance further, I'll bring the three of you to a place, and there will definitely be the spirit scorpion you want. Really? This time, Sumo used the tone of Wu Daoyong. How can I joke? Wu Daoyong said. Saying that, he and Sumo couldn't help but laugh. The two of them each took what they needed, and seemed to be confiding in each other. But everything was a transaction. Fellow Taoist Morong, follow me again. Saying that, Wu Daoyong had already soared into the sky. Behind him, the four rebirth realm cultivators followed closely. It seemed like they were his absolute trusted aides. Sumo and the other two immediately followed. Wu Daoyong brought everyone away from this immortal gathering and flew towards the depths of the immortal scorpion sect. Sumo didn't ask, but she felt that Wu Daoyong's position in the immortal scorpion sect wasn't low, because there were no obstructions along the way. 15 minutes later, they had already arrived at a back mountain of the immortal scorpion sect. From the sky, this place looked like the tail of the immortal scorpion sect. It was a dark black short mountain. The surrounding mountains were all greenish-brown in color. Only this short black mountain was a bit special, and at this moment, the four rebirth realm cultivators under Wu Daoyong all became vigilant. Their gazes were all looking in one direction, as if guarding. The four of you guard this place. If there's anything strange, report to me immediately. Your subordinates understand. The 2 men and 2 women replied at the same time. Looking again, Wu Daoyong descended from the sky, and Sumo and the other 2 followed behind. In front of the short black mountain, Wu Daoyong purposely stopped his footsteps and then actually tidied up his clothes, appearing rather solemn. Then he bowed deeply towards the short black mountain. Wu Daoyong requests to see Elder Scorpion. Wu Daoyong's voice was very low, as if he was afraid of disturbing the cultivator inside. Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shunming all muttered in their hearts that the person inside the short black mountain was probably a venerable. After Wu Daoyong finished speaking, there was no response from within the short black mountain for a long time. However, Wu Daoyong maintained his deep bowing posture, without the slightest bit of impatience, and instead, his expression became even more respectful. After a while, a somewhat hoarse voice came from within the short black mountain. "Little Wu, come in." That voice was not only hoarse, but it also carried a sinister coldness, causing one's hair to stand on end. Looking again, a door of light directly appeared on the short black mountain. "Everyone, you must pay attention to etiquette. Elder Scorpion is an elder of our sect. We must respect him," Wu Daoyong instructed. "Brother Wu, don't worry. We understand," Sumo said. Wu Daoyong was in front, while Sumo and the other 2 were behind. The inside of the short black mountain was actually extremely cold and humid. This cave did not seem like a place for cultivation at all, but more like a prison. The dark tunnel twisted and turned, and was extremely cramped. Wu Daoyong, on the other hand, was very familiar with the path. They actually walked for close to the time it took for an incense stick to burn before the path ahead suddenly became clear. It was a big hole. However, the air was filled with a pungent stench. At the same time, Sumo and the others saw a white-haired old man crawling on the ground. Chapter 970. Inside the short black mountain, it was dark and damp. This place did not look like a place for cultivation, but more like a prison. Inside the cave, there was a white-haired old man. Most importantly, the white-haired old man was not sitting cross-legged like other cultivators, but was prostrating on the ground. Her surroundings seemed to be a quagmire. Half of her body was in the quagmire. The quagmire emitted a pungent smell. The white-haired old man's tattered robe was already filthy. Only a bit of white could be faintly seen. Her head was half lowered, her long hair covering her face. "Elder Scorpion." Wu Daoyong bowed to greet her from far away. At that moment, Sumo and the rest could feel Wu Daoyong's reverence towards the white-haired old man. "Kiki, Kiki." The white-haired old man let out a hoarse and eerie laugh, then slowly raised her head. She was actually a female cultivator. Her face was full of wrinkles and scars, crisscrossing, extremely terrifying. It was a face that you would never want to look at a second time. Sumo could not help but frown. Wang Yu's expression was still considered calm. Shunming secretly stood behind Wang Yu. 9th stage Venerable Realm. Sumo could see through the white-haired elder's cultivation with one look. At the same time, he was extremely curious What could allow such a peerless expert to survive here? In theory, she could definitely go out. There did not seem to be any terrifying seals here. Xiao Wu, you haven't been here for a long time. The white-haired elder scorpion said in a strange tone. Her face was already expressionless, but her gaze was eerie and terrifying. Elder Scorpion, forgive me. I was sent by the sect leader to patrol the mountain. It's not convenient for me to come here normally. Wu Daoyong said carefully. Sect leader? Hee hee. The white-haired elder scorpion laughed coldly. The immortal scorpion sect will be destroyed by those useless people sooner or later. Then what does the sect leader know? Wu Daoyong's expression was awkward, not daring to reply. Did you bring me wine? Yes. Yes. Wu Daoyong hurriedly took out a silver wine flask from his storage pouch, then gently waved his hand and used a mortal force to send it to Elder Scorpion. Wu Daoyong didn't seem to dare to go near the black pond. Elder Scorpion reached out with one hand and grabbed the wine pot. At that moment, Sumo realized that Elder Scorpion seemed to have lost his right hand. It was just an empty sleeve. Lifting his head, Elder Scorpion scooped up the wine gourd and drank from it. Gulp, gulp. The fragrance of the wine permeated the air. That silver wine pot was a magic treasure, and it was unknown how much wine it could hold. Apart from the sound of Elder Scorpion drinking, there was no sound in the cave. Wu Daoist did not even dare to breathe loudly. Naturally, Sumo and the other two couldn't speak at the back. After a long while, Elder Scorpion finally put down the wine jug and let out a long sigh of comfort. AI, Xiao Wuzi, in the entire Immortal Scorpion sect, you're the only one with a heart still thinking about this old granny. This wine is really not bad. Showing filial piety to you is a junior's duty, Wu Daoyong said. Elder Scorpion nodded slightly. Then his gaze landed on Sumo and the other two. Who are they? Why did you bring them here? This place is the forbidden area of the Immortal Scorpion sect. Elder Scorpion, they are Junior's friends. They are my friends, and I have a favor to ask of you, Wu Daoyong said. Ask for my help. Elder Scorpion couldn't help but laugh coldly. I'm just a cripple trapped here who doesn't see the light of day. What can I help them with? They are cultivators from the Azure Mountain Boundaries Verdantwood sect. Wu Daoyong said. The Verdantwood sect specializes in alchemy. They want to ask for a supreme grade spirit Scorpion King to be used in alchemy. A supreme grade spirit Scorpion King to be used in alchemy? Elder Scorpion's eyes narrowed. The cold glint in his eyes made one shudder. Sumo and the other two lowered their heads cooperatively. You are from the Verdantwood sect? I am Morong Huang from the Verdantwood sect. Greetings, Elder Scorpion. They are my two junior sisters. Sumo slowly raised her head and replied. Two junior sisters. Elder Scorpion grinned widely, but his smile was even uglier than before. Young man, you are quite lucky with women. With two junior sisters accompanying you on your travels, you must be enjoying yourself every night. With that, Elder Scorpion stared intently at Sumo. There was an extremely special light in her eyes. It was a kind of resentment. Senior, you must be joking. At that moment, Sumo seemed to have mustered her courage and said firmly, We are cultivators who seek the Tao wholeheartedly and cultivate wholeheartedly. How can we walk the path of evil? As a senior brother, I'm the elder brother. I would definitely not have the slightest bit of blasphemy. Wang Yu and Shun Ming were also calm at this moment. This was because they did not have any evil thoughts in the first place. When Elder Scorpion heard Sumo's words, she looked at Wang Yu and Shun Ming and was slightly stunned. Then, her gaze gradually calmed down. Young man, you said it well. Elder Scorpion nodded her head and muttered to herself, If I had a senior brother like you back then, would I be where I am today? The Greenwood sect specializes in alchemy? Elder Scorpion changed the topic. Yes, Sumo answered. What level of elixir can you refine? Elder Scorpion asked. Oh, Sumo did not expect Elder Scorpion to be interested in alchemy. If I have all the ingredients, I can refine an honored level elixir. Oh, Sumo's words were heard. Not only were Elder Scorpion and Wu Daoyong surprised, even Wang Yu and Shunming were shocked. It was true that Sumo was at the peak of the honored level, but that did not mean that she could refine an honored level elixir. After all, Sumo was not a pure pill cultivator. Young man, you have to be responsible for your words. Elder Scorpion said coldly. You are only at the second stage of the rebirth realm, but you can actually refine an honored level elixir. To be honest, I am a pill cultivator. I do have some talent in alchemy, otherwise I would not dare to say such things. Sumo said calmly. Actually, Sumo was not lying at all. He was indeed talented. This was because he had the inheritance of windmill, and his greatest talent was actually the soul-concealing cauldron. With the soul-concealing cauldron, it was definitely not a problem for him to refine an honored level elixir. You really want the Spirit Scorpion King? Elder Scorpion did not continue asking about the elixir, but returned to the previous topic. My brother and sister traveled to the glazed white South Star region to ask for the Spirit Scorpion King. Sumo said, What grade of the Spirit Scorpion King do you want? Elder Scorpion asked. Of course, the higher the grade, the better. Sumo said, Hee hee. Elder Scorpion laughed coldly. Young man, a man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Do you know where the highest grade Spirit Scorpion King is in the entire Five Poisons realm? Sumo could not help but be moved. I do not know. Please enlighten me. Hee hee. Elder Scorpion laughed strangely. Looking again, in the quagmire under her body, there were strange things rolling. Not long later, densely packed scorpions crawled out of the quagmire. Among them, the smallest was no more than 1 or 2 inches. The largest was 3 to 4 feet. Black and dense, densely packed. Looking at it, it made one's scalp go numb. They were actually all in the quagmire, and some were rolling into a ball. That black quagmire was the nest of super scorpions. I won't hide it from you. The scorpions under me are all of the highest grade in the immortal scorpion sect. Below my black quagmire, there are also several Spirit Scorpion Kings. However, the highest grade Spirit Scorpion King in the Five Poisons realm is not in the immortal Scorpion Star. Where is it? Sumo asked. In the Dark World's Five Poisons Star. Elder Scorpion laughed coldly. However, I'm afraid you won't dare to take it. Chapter 971. Dark Realm? Five Poisons Star. Sumo's heart lit up when she heard Elder Scorpion's words. Someone related to the Five Poisons Star had indeed appeared. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. Dark Realm, Five Poisons Star. Sumo pretended to be surprised. Senior, are you talking about the legendary Dark Realm of Glaze World? That's right, Elder Scorpion said. You are a rebirth realm cultivator. Although Blue Mountain World does not have a dark star, you should know about it. The Five Poison World is a small world with a dark star. That dark star is the Five Poison Star, located at the very center of the Five Poison World. The Five Poison Star is a parasite of the immortal Scorpion Star? Sumo asked. Hee hee. No. Elder Scorpion shook his head. The existence of the Five Poison Star is rather special. In theory, the so-called parasite is the existence of 2 stars, one light and one dark. However, the Five Poison Star of the Five Poison Star is accompanied by 5 stars. Oh, Sumo was shocked. A dark star had 5 stars. This was something Sumo had never encountered before. The Five Poison Star is definitely a special existence in the glazed white South Star region. The immortal scorpion, venomous snake, centipede, gecko, and toad. These 5 stars nourish and nurture the Five Poison Star. Elder Scorpion said, Senior, I've heard that the light and dark stars are born together. If a star is destroyed, the dark star will become bright. However, what about the Five Poison Star? Sumo said, You're right. Elder Scorpion smiled sinisterly. However, if you go to the Five Poison Star, you will realize that the Five Poison Star is actually made up of 5 parts. It is like a tangerine, divided into 5 parts. They clearly correspond to the other 5 stars. If one of the 5 stars is destroyed one day, then a fifth of the Five Poison Star will become a star. The empty part will slowly form again. It really is mysterious. Sumo nodded and sighed. Hee hee. Elder Scorpion sneered again. The 5 poison star is definitely a treasure star. It can be said that it contains many treasures from the other 5 stars. If the immortal scorpion, venomous snake, centipede, lizard, and toad had something on the 5 stars, then the 5 venomous star would definitely have it. But if it had something on the 5 venomous star, then it might not have it. The 5 poison star cultivators are all experts, but they all drink the blood of the 5 stars. Although the spirit scorpion king in my quagmire is not bad, it can only be considered ordinary on the 5 poison star. The scorpion king is an existence on the poison star. A dark realm spirit scorpion king is an existence comparable to a venerable. Scorpion king is his scorpion. Scorpion poison star, Scorpion said. Moreover, he was really interested in the dark world's spirit scorpion king. Scorpion was the head of the 5 poisons. If he could really tame a dark world spirit scorpion king, that would be great. King is scorpion star. Poison king is C. Elder Scorpion looked at Sumo as if he wanted to see through him. With just the 3 of you, you're definitely going to die. Elder Scorpion looked at Sumo. You 3 are going to die. After listening for so long, Sumo naturally understood that Elder Scorpion must have something else to say. If I can get to the dark world and get the Scorpion King, I will give you something. He. Elder Scorpion shook his head. What can you give me? He. Elder Scorpion shook his head. What can you give me? I have a venerable divine weapon. I am willing to give it to you. Sumo said. Venerable divine weapon? Elder Scorpion sneered. Do you think I have never seen a venerable divine weapon? Not to mention the venerable divine weapon. Even if you have the lotus treasure, I don't care. Oh, when Sumo heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. It was normal for him to not want a venerable divine weapon. Even Lianbua couldn't move him. However, Sumo reckoned that the other party had probably guessed that he did not have the lotus treasure on him. Then Elder Sumo paused. He knew that he must have something that Elder Scorpion wanted. Otherwise, Elder Scorpion wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to him. Therefore, he was waiting for Elder Scorpion to make a request. Elder Scorpion's laughter seemed to have calmed down. Greenwood sect specializes in alchemy. Sumo nodded his head in confusion, because he had already answered this question earlier. You can refine venerable divine pills? Elder Scorpion asked again, as if she wanted to confirm it. By now, Sumo had more or less guessed it. Elder Scorpion didn't want a divine weapon, but he wanted her to help him refine pills. Elder, if you want to refine pills, that is my forte. As long as it's not a celestial pill above the Lotus Realm, I am confident. Sumo patted her chest. How arrogant. Elder Scorpion sneered. The pills I want are not ordinary. Elder Scorpion, do you have a recipe? Sumo asked. I do. Elder Scorpion said. Then do you lack medicinal ingredients? Sumo said. Not at all. Elder Scorpion said. Then? Sumo was confused. If he didn't lack these 2 ingredients, why didn't he refine pills? All the cultivators on the immortal Scorpion planet stay away from me. There's only one person like Xiao Wu in the entire immortal Scorpion sect, and he doesn't dare to do it openly. The pills I want are extremely difficult to refine. In the entire 5 poisons planet, there are no more than 3 people who can refine pills for me. However, they're all on the 5 poisons planet and definitely won't refine pills for me, nor would they dare to. As for the others, they can't refine pills for me. Most importantly, although I have gathered all the medicinal ingredients, I can only refine 1 pill. If I can't refine it, I will definitely kill him. At this point, Elder Scorpion's gaze turned cold. Sumo didn't know about her past. However, this pill was definitely the courage to continue living. Oh, Sumo couldn't help but frown. How about it? Young man, do you have the ability to refine pills for me? Elder Scorpion looked at Sumo and said, If you can refine pills for me, then I will accompany you to the 5 poisons planet, and I will guarantee that you will obtain the Dark World's Spirit Scorpion King. If not, then leave this place. Elder Scorpion's tone actually became gentler at the end. This made Sumo a little surprised. However, Sumo concluded that this sentence was just to appease her. From Sumo's observation, Elder Scorpion was definitely an extremely tenacious and patient person for being trapped here. She definitely had a story of her own. If Sumo couldn't refine pills, she definitely wouldn't let her leave. Senior, can I take a look at your pill recipe before making a decision? Sumo said. Sure. Elder Scorpion nodded, then rolled up his long sleeve with one hand. A green snakeskin flew out. It was a rather ancient pill recipe, and it looked like it had been around for a long time. On its surface, there were many densely packed ancient characters. Fortunately, Sumo recognized them all. 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill. Looking at that pill recipe, Sumo couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, because the pill was as its name suggested. Chapter 972. 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill. 9 deaths in exchange for 1 rejuvenation. Moreover, that rejuvenation was very special. It was a very special and overbearing pill. Sumo had never heard of it before. The black ancient characters were densely packed on the green snake skin. The pill recipe was very detailed, from the ingredients to what to do at each step, and even how to control the fire. Everything was clearly marked. Sumo couldn't help but frown because this pill formula was too detailed. It was so detailed that anyone could refine the 9 Death Rejuvenation Pill. But if that was the case, then there would be no value in being a pill cultivator. Although Sumo was not a pill cultivator, his ability to refine pills was not something an ordinary pill cultivator could compare to. His pill techniques were inherited from third senior brother Windwheel. Therefore, he could see the trap in this pill recipe with one look. The person who left this pill recipe must have done it on purpose. If he followed the steps in a recipe, he would definitely not be able to refine the 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill. Every single time, he would fall short of success. 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill. Sumo looked at Elder Scorpion. Senior, are you sure you want to refine this pill? I believe you understand the effects of this pill, right? I'm sure. I understand. Madam Scorpion looked at Sumo with determination. Senior, 9 deaths in exchange for 1. Sumo really wanted to persuade this strange Elder Scorpion. Cut the crap. Can you refine it or not? Elder Scorpion interrupted Sumo's words. There's a problem with this pill recipe. Sumo held the snakeskin pill recipe and said, if I follow the steps in this pill recipe, I will never be able to refine the 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill. What? Elder Scorpion's eyes widened, and he said in a hoarse voice, Young man, are you speaking the truth? There's absolutely no mistake. Sumo said with certainty. Ha ha, GGG. Hearing Sumo's words, Elder Scorpion suddenly laughed strangely. That laughter contained too much desolation. 2 streams of turbid tears flowed down from her eyes. Tears rolled down the scars and wrinkles on her face. In this dark cave, it seemed to be shining. At that moment, Wang Yu and Shen Ming's hearts trembled slightly, because they were all women. Senior brother, you really are ruthless. Elder Scorpion's voice was filled with endless resentment. I'm sure you knew that I would pursue this 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill. How have I ever owed you? How dare you treat me like this? Haven't you harmed me enough? None of the 5 poisons are as good as you. Elder Scorpion's long sleeves danced as she patted Ning Tan under her. Black mud splattered everywhere as countless spirit scorpions turned into black smoke. Sumo looked at Wu Daoyong. Wu Daoyong's brows were tightly furrowed, not daring to speak. However, he seemed to know something about Elder Scorpion's past. A while later, Elder Scorpion finally calmed down. Little fellow, you are indeed an expert alchemist. Elder Scorpion said, that's because I've tried to concoct pills myself before, and I've also caught some pills to cultivate with, but I've never succeeded. That's why I've only used up enough ingredients to concoct 1 pill. However, I've always thought that it was a problem with our concoction, and I've never suspected that there was a problem with the pill recipe. After all, this pill recipe was obtained in secret, and the same pill recipe can have different effect for different alchemists. Then let me ask you, can you still concoct the 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill? Elder Scorpion's eyes narrowed slightly. I can, Sumo said straightforwardly. How confident are you? Elder Scorpion asked. As long as you have all the ingredients. I'm 90% confident, Sumo said. Sumo didn't need to follow any steps when concocting pills. All right, Elder Scorpion nodded heavily. Then I'll bet on you. If I don't succeed this time, I won't be able to live anymore. Help me concoct pills, and I'll help you get the Dark Spirit Scorpion King. All right, Sumo said. However, I have a request. Speak, Elder Scorpion said. We want Senior to bring us to Dark World's 5 poison star first. Then I can concoct pills for Senior. Otherwise, Sumo's tone paused. His meaning was clear. What if after the pill was concocted, the other party would burn the bridge after crossing the river? He. Elder Scorpion nodded. Young man, don't worry. In this life, I hate people who don't keep their words the most. Perhaps you feel that I'm living a life of darkness here, and that I'm neither a human nor a ghost. However, I, Madam 5 Poison Scorpion, am a man of my words and will never lie. Madam 5 Poison Scorpion. This was the first time Elder Scorpion called himself that. As long as you can help me concoct pills, then everything will be as you wish. Saying that, Madam Scorpion looked at Wu Daoyong. Xiao Wu, come with me to Dark World. That Wu Daoyong hesitated. Don't worry, Madam Scorpion said to Wu Daoyong. I will remember your kindness. As long as I take the 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill, the entire Immortal Scorpion Star will be yours in the future. Brother Wu, as long as I go to Dark World, I will give you a Reincarnation Grade Pill. Sumo smiled. Hee. Wu Daoyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. Actually, he had no other choice. My life is in Elder Scorpion's and Brother Morong's hands. I, Madam Scorpion, distinguish between kindness and hatred. Madam Scorpion did not say anything else, and slowly climbed out of the quagmire. She was a stage 9 venerable. However, at that moment, she looked like a disabled mortal woman. It was extremely difficult for her to climb out. Looking again, the lower half of her body was covered in a long white dress, but it seemed to be empty. She actually only had half of her body. That scene caused Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shun Ming to frown, because they did not dare to imagine what kind of person or power could turn a stage 9 venerable into such a state. It was even uglier and more painful than death. Rustle. At the same time, as half of Madam Scorpion's body was pulled out, the spirit scorpions in the quagmire began to roll around, and then they all crawled into Madam Scorpion's dress. Under the dress, there was finally some flesh. In the end, Madam Scorpion turned into a scorpion with a human body and a scorpion tail. Madam Scorpion said in a hoarse voice, I was harmed by a scoundrel. That's why I am like this. When we reach Dark World, maybe I could tell you my story. Good and evil will always be rewarded. The heavenly Tao has reincarnation, Sumo said. He. Madam Scorpion glanced at Sumo. Young man, you don't have to comfort me. As long as you help me refine the 9 Deaths Rejuvenation Pill, then there will be a heavenly Tao in the universe. Saying that, Madam Scorpion waved her hand. Whoosh! When he looked again, the black pond just now instantly emitted a dark brown brilliance. The aura in the entire cave residence changed. The stench from before was gone in an instant. The black quagmire was actually a teleportation formation. He. GGG. Madam Scorpion let out a strange laugh again. Looking again, the light from the formation spread like water, and in an instant, it spread to the feet of Sumo and the others. Suddenly, the cave in front of them disappeared, straight to the 5 venomous star. Inside the formation, Madam Scorpion laughed dryly and muttered to herself, 5 venomous star. Your dark scorpion emissary has returned. Long time no see, how have you been? Chapter 973. Dark Scorpion Envoy. This was an identity that Madam Scorpion did not reveal before. As she muttered to herself, Sumo and the rest had already left the formation. The formation between the bright star and the dark star was like a door. There seemed to be no distance between them, and they could reach each other with just a lift of their feet. Sumo and the rest appeared in a secluded valley. The valley was not big, with a radius of only a few dozen feet. There was also a black pond there. However, before they appeared, the black pond seemed to have dried up for a long time. The valley was filled with a faint yellow mist. It was a type of poison unique to the five poison star. Cultivators below the rebirth realm would die in less than 2 hours if they did not have a special anti-poison item to protect themselves. We are in the immortal scorpion area corresponding to the five poison star, and this place used to be a secret passage for the dark scorpion envoy. However, it has been abandoned for millions of years, and other than me, no one can open it. Madame Scorpion said as she walked forward. Actually, her movement could not be called walking, because her lower body was a scorpion tail. Her upper body was upright, while her lower body was floating. At the same time, hundreds of spirit scorpions appeared from her lower body. They began to scatter in all directions. However, most of them were heading in the same direction. They were like puppet scouts. Madame Scorpion did not say much, and directly headed in the direction with the most spirit scorpions. Sumo, Wu Daoyong, and the rest followed behind. Although the valley was small, it was not easy to get out. Spirit Scorpion and Madame Scorpion walked in front, and after walking for a full 15 minutes, they finally saw the entrance of the valley. Obviously, there was a special maze formation set up in this valley. Actually, the maze formation was useless against Sumo. However, Sumo still followed patiently and secretly observed her surroundings. The spirit energy of the five poison star was different from the dark world spirit energy that they had been to before. The spirit energy here was also abundant, but within the abundance, there was a lot of poison, giving people an indescribable feeling. The five poison star was more mysterious and terrifying than the other dark worlds. Outside the valley, there was actually a palace. However, that palace was already in ruins. The entire palace should have been grand and magnificent. Now, many places had already collapsed, and the remaining ripples of the formation were still emitting a dim light. It seemed to be an abandoned world. The horizontal plaque on the main hall was still there. On the black base paint, the golden characters were already discolored and mottled, but he could still recognize it. Immortal Scorpion Palace. This used to be my immortal palace. Madame Scorpion stood outside the palace for a long time and sighed. However, things are different now. But don't worry, it's very safe here. The people of Five Poisons Star had long since treated this place as a wasteland. Besides, this place is a special barrier. Sumo and the others nodded. Madame Scorpion led everyone into Immortal Scorpion Palace. There were many spirit scorpions leading the way in front of them. As the spirit scorpions entered, the entire palace began to change. Originally, this place was covered in dust and spiderwebs. As for the spirit scorpions that opened the way, they cleared everything. The Immortal Scorpion Palace was no longer the same as it was in the past, but temporarily settling down was completely fine. Young man, I'm a man of my word. Shouldn't you fulfill your promise? Madame Scorpion said. Of course. Sumo nodded, then looked at the Immortal Scorpion Palace. Currently, the Immortal Scorpion Palace was already in existence in the open. Above their heads was a piece of dusky yellow sky. Madame Scorpion, I need a quiet room. All right. Madame Scorpion nodded. Then she walked toward the corner of the broken palace. There was a wall there. Many things around it were already broken. Only that wall still had runes flashing on it. Madame Scorpion formed a seal with both hands. Rumble, rumble. Looking again, the wall suddenly opened. It was a secret passage. Madame Scorpion led everyone into the secret passage. It led straight to an underground palace. The underground palace of Immortal Scorpion Palace was only a third of the size on the surface. However, this was a secret that only Madame Scorpion knew. Although the underground Immortal Scorpion Palace was also very old, it was still well preserved. They stopped in front of a large palace. Young man, once the stone door on the left opens, it will be a pill room. You can refine pills by yourself inside. No one will disturb you. Madame Scorpion pointed at the stone door. The stone door opened. Inside was a 3-zhang square room. What was rare was that there were a few pill furnaces inside and a medicine rack. However, the pill furnaces were covered in dust, and some of the herbs on the medicine rack had already lost their medicinal properties. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Over 100 scorpions surrounded the entrance of the pill room, one by one, but did not enter. Actually, they wanted to go in and clean it up, but they did not receive Madame Scorpion's order. "All of you don't need to go in," Madame Scorpion said indifferently. Then she looked at Sumo. "Young man, you go in alone. How long do you need to refine the pill?" "Almost 7 days, 3 days," Sumo said. "Oh." Madame Scorpion could not help but raise her eyebrows. "Is that true? I saw that the pill room said that it would take 79 days. Without the spirit fire, one would not be able to sleep." "Hee hee," Sumo laughed. "That pill room was fake to begin with." But the most important thing is that Junior's pill refining skills are different from normal pill cultivators. 7 days is more than enough. Good, good. Madame Scorpion was more or less excited, because she really did not expect Sumo to be so capable. At this moment, Sumo directly sent out a rebirth-level pill, floating in front of Wu Daoyong. "Brother Wu, your immortal pill. 4-cycle pill." Wu Daoyong held the pill in his hands, also very excited. That pill was reddish-brown in color, with 4 patterns on it. It was the 4-cycle pill that many cultivators in the 3rd level of the rebirth realm dreamed of. It could increase the chances of a cultivator in the 3rd level of the rebirth realm to the 4th level by 70%. Basically, one 4-cycle pill could guarantee a cultivator in the 3rd level of the rebirth realm to advance. That was a pill that could only be found by luck, because it was extremely rare. "Brother Morong, you are indeed a man of your words." Wu Daoyong cupped his hands towards Sumo. "I will remember today's favor." "Brother Wu is too polite." Sumo smiled. "For cycle pill, casually given out." Madame Scorpion looked at Sumo and nodded. "Young man, you are indeed not ordinary. This old lady will wait for your news. Senior, please take good care of my 2 junior sisters for the next few days." Sumo exhorted. "Your pill will definitely succeed. Don't worry," Madame Scorpion said. "You and I could both take what we need. If we work together, it will be a win-win situation. This old lady will not do anything that is disadvantageous to herself." "Thank you, Senior." Sumo's words stopped there. Then, he nodded towards Wang Yu and Shun Ming and stepped into the pill room. Whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, the spiritual scorpions that were originally lingering at the door actually crawled all over the stone door. The dense black mass directly sealed the stone door tightly. Looking at it, it made one's heart numb. Wang Yu and Shun Ming looked at each other, but did not say anything. "2 ladies, please sit." Madame Scorpion's voice was hoarse, but very polite. "As long as I get the 9-cycle rejuvenation pill, everything else is not important to me. Don't worry, no matter where you come from, no matter who you are, as long as the pill is completed, you will be my Madame Scorpion's friend." Her words were very meaningful. Chapter 974. Smart people would always stop when they spoke. Because they understood each other with one sentence, there was no need for a second sentence. Madame Scorpion's words caused Wang Yu and Shun Ming's hearts to move. However, their expressions were very calm. Maybe Madame Scorpion was just testing them, because they believed that Madame Scorpion would not be able to see through Sumo's technique. Everything that happened before did not seem to have any obvious flaws. "Thank you, Madame Scorpion. We also hope to be friends with Madame." Wang Yu's reply was watertight. Both sides did not say anything, but they both expressed their attitude. Madame Scorpion nodded, then said to Wu Daoyong, "Xiao Wu, there's another room over there. You should eat that 4-cycle pill. You should be able to advance within 7 days. I will protect you." "Thank you, Elder Scorpion." Wu Daoyong thanked sincerely. Then, he directly ran to the right side of the room. Advancing to the 4th level of Rebirth Realm was his long-cherished wish. Today, his wish could finally be fulfilled. Therefore, Wu Daoyong did not delay, nor did he hesitate. Now that he had come to Dark World, everything was in Madame Scorpion's hands. He could not return to Immortal Scorpion sect at the moment. He could only move forward and advancing to the next level was a must. The stone door closed, and Wu Daoyong ate the 4-cycle pill. Madame Scorpion did not say anything else, but directly closed her eyes and started cultivating. Shun Ming and Wang Yu directly guarded Sumo's pill room. Wang Yu and Madame Scorpion also slightly closed their eyes. Shun Ming, on the other hand, stared at the many spiritual scorpions on the pill room door. Those spiritual scorpions were not ordinary, and any one of them was a high-quality medicinal ingredient. At this moment, in the eyes of others, Shun Ming was keen and studious, carefully observing the spiritual scorpions. However, Wang Yu laughed bitterly in her heart, because only she knew that Shun Ming was actually seriously pondering how to eat these spiritual scorpions of all sizes. In Shun Ming's eyes, there were a few spiritual scorpions that were extremely fertile. The hall was completely silent. Even the spiritual scorpions did not make any noise. Everyone was waiting. In fact, Wang Yu and Shun Ming did not know how good Sumo's alchemy skills were. However, they firmly believed that Sumo was the reincarnation of the Netherlord, so a venerable pill should not be a problem. In fact, this was indeed the case. Sumo was even more relaxed than they had imagined. In the pill room, Sumo was already sitting cross-legged in a corner. He carefully looked at the pill room again. Other than the pill furnace and the medicine rack, he didn't find anything else. The entire pill room was simply decorated. There was nothing suspicious about it. Therefore, Sumo waved her hand, and the entire pill room was as clean as new. At the same time, he laid down a barrier in the pill room to ensure that nothing went wrong. Then Sumo summoned the hidden soul cauldron and allowed it to shrink to the size of 3 feet and stood in the center of the alchemy room. The soul depository cauldron was a top-grade lianbua. It was the greatest reason why Sumo dared to agree to Madame Scorpion's request. Then, Sumo took out a storage bag. This storage bag was given to him by Madame Scorpion. It was filled with medicinal ingredients. The 9 Deaths Rejuvenation pill required a total of 49 medicinal ingredients. Almost all of these medicinal ingredients were taken from the 5 Poisons Star Realm. Many of these medicinal ingredients could not even be found in Sumo's soul depository altar. Every single one of those herbs was extremely toxic. However, when they were refined together, they could be combined to form the 9 Deaths Rejuvenation pill. 9 Deaths Rejuvenation. Sumo looked at the snakeskin pill recipe again and frowned. It was clearly written on it, 9 Deaths Rejuvenation. 9 deaths can be exchanged for 1 spring. After taking the pill, 9 layers of skin will be shed, and the person will be tortured endlessly. 9 deaths can be exchanged for 3 days of youth, and the person will have the strength of a lotus. After 3 days, the person will be reduced to ashes. Madame Scorpion only showed this pill recipe to Sumo. No one else knew. Therefore, Sumo advised Madame Scorpion to reconsider. However, Madame Scorpion had already made up her mind. This was also one of the main reasons why Sumo agreed and trusted Madame Scorpion. A person who was willing to go through 9 deaths in exchange for 3 days of youth. She must have had great love in her heart. Only now did she have great hatred. Great love, great hatred. That was her everything. Everything else was not important to Madame Scorpion. Therefore, Sumo gave Wu Dao the 4 cycles pill in the end. This gave Madame Scorpion a hint. I am not a normal pill cultivator. This was because no pill cultivator at the 2nd layer of the rebirth realm would give away the 4-cycle pill so easily. Madame Scorpion was a pitiful and terrifying woman. She only wanted to have 3 days of youth, complete what she wanted to do, and then die. The meaning of her life was for those last 3 days. She was not dangerous to herself. This was Sumo's judgment. Love, hate. Why? Sumo smiled helplessly. Actually, he did not really understand this feeling, because, in his heart, it was more about the 3 realms of the Star River. Whoosh! With a shake of Sumo's hand, the medicinal ingredients in the storage bag fell into the soul depository cauldron. Sumo had already checked the quantity of the medicinal ingredients. That was a proper portion of it. That was Madame Scorpion's last hope. Actually, it was easy to kill Madame Scorpion, just destroy these medicinal ingredients. because this was her last hope. Of course, Sumo did not do that. There was no need, and it was too cruel. After the medicinal ingredients entered the cauldron, Sumo did not need to do anything else. However, he let out the little white pig, because the soul depository cauldron had already started to sizzle, and at the same time, a faint white mist was released. It had already started to refine the medicinal ingredients. The little white pig jumped out happily, because it had not smelled the fragrance of medicinal ingredients for a long time. Its plump body rose and fell along with the white mist, and it was extremely intoxicated. Sumo sat there quietly. The soul depository cauldron refining pills was completely automatic. There was no need to care about the steps or the heat. What Sumo needed to do now was to wait for the pill to be refined. If the few people outside the alchemy room knew how Sumo refined pills, they would be shocked. Sizzle, sizzle. The white mist continued to rise, and the medicinal ingredients inside the soul depository cauldron began to take shape. They completely melted. All the impurities were broken down by the soul depository cauldron. Time passed, and everything went according to plan. 2 hours, 4 hours, 1 day, 2 days. Based on past experience, the 3 to 7 days that Sumo mentioned was definitely reasonable. As expected, on the 3rd day, the white mist was almost gone. The little white pig stared at the soul depository cauldron. It did not know what kind of pill was being refined inside, and it was wondering if its master could give it one to satisfy its craving. Buzz! At this moment, the soul depository cauldron began to vibrate. It seemed like it had reached the final stage of refining the pill. This was a few hours earlier than Sumo had expected. Ding! The soul depository cauldron suddenly stopped vibrating, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. The pill was completed. Sumo waved her hand. A crimson pill the size of a pigeon's egg flew out from the soul depository cauldron. The little white pig raised its nose and instantly frowned. Its original expectations immediately vanished, because that pill was emitting an endless stench. Chapter 975. Not only did the 9-death rejuvenation pill not smell good, but it was also stinky. Do you want to try it? Sumo asked with a smile as he held the pill in his hand. The little white pig shook its head like a rattle drum. How could it eat such a stinky pill? It was regretting absorbing the spiritual energy earlier. It wouldn't have diarrhea, right? But the spiritual energy wasn't stinky at all. Sumo smiled as he kept the 9-death rejuvenation pill. Although the entire pill room was filled with a stinky smell, Sumo was very satisfied, because that was the special characteristic of the 9-death rejuvenation pill. Also, it was the same as before. Anything that came out of the hidden soul pill must be of high quality. The 9-death rejuvenation pill was another high-quality pill. Then, Sumo put away the hidden soul cauldron and left the cave. The stone door opened, and the spirit scorpions dispersed. Madam Scorpion, Wang Yu, and Shun Ming were stunned. They didn't expect Sumo to come out so soon. Wang Yu and Shun Ming raised their eyebrows. Failed. However, they saw that Sumo's expression was rather calm. The pill is done? Madam Scorpion asked in a hoarse voice. I didn't let you down. Sumo smiled. Then he opened his hand, and the 9-death rejuvenation pill appeared in his hand. In an instant, the stench rushed into their nostrils. It stinks. Shunming couldn't help but say. Wang Yu also frowned. Only Madam Scorpion's body trembled slightly, because this was the smell she needed. Supreme 9-death rejuvenation pill. Madam Scorpion said with a trembling voice. Senior, please keep it well. As he said that, Sumo shook his hand and sent the stinky pill to Madam Scorpion. Madam Scorpion used her long sleeves to hold the pill, and tears rolled down her face. She had been waiting for this pill for 1,000,000 years in that dark and stinky cave. Thank you. Madam Scorpion thanked Sumo sincerely. Senior, Sumo paused. You should understand what it means to eat this pill. I still hope you will think twice before you act. Madam Scorpion shook her head sadly. Young man, I've already thought about what I should have done in the past million years. There's no need to think about anything else. Senior, what do you want? Perhaps I can help you think of another way. Sumo sighed. This pill is indeed too overbearing. Besides, if you eat it, then you... I understand. Madame Scorpion smiled, a rare trace of gentleness in her eyes. Young man, you've already helped me a lot. Even if there are any more miraculous methods, this old woman doesn't need them anymore. 3 days is enough. But what if you don't survive the 9 deaths? Sumo said. It doesn't matter. Lady Scorpion said. If that's the case, then it's my destiny. I have no regrets. Hearing this, Sumo nodded lightly and didn't say anything else. Looking again, Madame Scorpion didn't eat the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill directly. Instead, she put it away and took out a wine pouch from her tattered storage pouch. It was also a green snakeskin wine pouch, made of the same material as the pill recipe. Young man, ladies, it's fate that we got to know each other. How about you accompany this old woman for a drink today? After drinking this wine, I want to eat the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill. Hee. Madame Scorpion's smile was a little self-deprecating. If I die, then you'll be sending me off. Drink? Shen Ming's jaw dropped. He couldn't help but look at Wang Yu. Shen Ming's gaze was worth pondering. Wang Yu's expression was calm. She only glanced at Sumo. Sumo nodded at Wang Yu and said, the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill. 9 deaths in exchange for 1 life. After taking the pill, 9 layers of skin will be peeled off and you'll be tortured endlessly. 9 days in exchange for 3 days of youth. Although you will have the combat power of a Lotus-level cultivator, you will die after 3 days. Therefore, let's drink with Senior. Wang Yu and Shen Ming frowned when they heard this. What kind of pill was that? It was more like a poison that would kill someone. They didn't understand why Madame Scorpion would do this. She was a stage 9 venerable. There was definitely a way to change her current state. However, from Madame Scorpion's words, it seemed like she wasn't willing to use other methods. She would rather die than eat the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill. All right. Wang Yu finally nodded after hearing Sumo's words. Hee. Shen Ming was naturally excited when he heard this. He took out a few kilograms of giant bear meat from his pocket. There's wine but no food. How can we settle this? I'll grill the giant bear meat for you. As he spoke, Shen Ming opened up his personal kitchen. Naturally, it had everything. There were even tables, chairs, and all kinds of wine utensils. Of course, the most eye-catching item was a golden oven. Venerable divine weapon? This time, even Sumo was speechless. She was wondering if Shen Ming's venerable divine weapons were all kitchen utensils like a kitchen knife, an oven, and a chopping board, right? Hee. Madame Scorpion's laughter was still hoarse, but the coldness in her eyes had completely disappeared. Young lady, I didn't expect you to have such good stuff. Not bad at all. I haven't had any decent spiritual food for more than 1,000,000 years. I'm lucky to have it before I die. Senior, now that we have wine and meat, it seems like we're just lacking a story. Sumo looked at Madame Scorpion and said. He knew that Madame Scorpion had her own story. Hee. Madame Scorpion smiled bitterly and waved her long sleeves. The green snake wine pouch filled their wine bowls to the brim. There is indeed a story when there is wine. Indeed, I should tell you all my story. Otherwise, not many people will know about me, the Dark World Messenger, Madame 5-Poison Scorpion. Madame Scorpion picked up the wine bowl in front of her and drank it in one gulp. Sigh. She let out a long sigh of relief. The scars and wrinkles on her face seemed to have relaxed a little. Don't worry. Although this wine is called the 5 Poisons wine, it is definitely not poisonous. Hee. Drink it and listen to my story. This story will definitely go well with the wine. Madame Scorpion said as she filled up her bowl. Yes. Sumo nodded and picked up the wine bowl. The wine was a mixed yellow color and seemed to have some impurities. It was not exceptionally pure. However, Sumo did not hesitate and drank it in one gulp. Sumo definitely had a high tolerance for alcohol. However, she was also shocked at this moment. The Taiwan Sex 7 Stars Bitter Dew was a special kind of wine. It was bitter at first and sweet at the end. However, She did not expect this five poisons wine to be even stronger than the 7 stars bitter dew. The moment it entered her mouth, it was as if she had swallowed a raging flame. It burned from her mouth to her stomach, and there seemed to be a sizzling sound. Then, her entire body suddenly became hot. Hot spiritual energy seemed to be rushing out of her pores. Such strong wine. Sumo sighed. If he was not at the venerable realm, he would probably be drunk from this bowl of wine. After he drank the wine, Wang Yu and Shun Ming naturally felt more at ease. Wang Yu held up the wine bowl and drank it in one gulp. His calmness and ease surprised Sumo and Madame Scorpion. Even Sumo could not handle such strong wine. Madame Scorpion knew how strong the wine was. However, Wang Yu drank it as if it was drinking water. Ming, you cannot drink this wine, Wang Yu said to Shun Ming. Otherwise, you will be drunk after one bowl. Shun Ming nodded as if he was pounding garlic. That was because Wang Yu's alcohol tolerance was invincible. Chapter 976. Samsara of the One Treasury has no updates today. Currently typing. Please wait a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 977. Celestial Scorpion Palace. The aroma of wine permeated the air. Inside Shun Ming's golden grill, green spiritual light flashed. Immortal fire barbecued meat. The spotted bear meat sizzled and emitted an endless aroma. Wang Yu took out a silver flask from her storage bag and threw it to Shun Ming. That was the wine she brought, suitable for Shun Ming, because Shun Ming's alcohol tolerance was extremely low. Madame Scorpion's wine. Shun Ming definitely could not drink it. Don't drink too much of this, Wang Yu instructed. Oh. Shun Ming took the silver flask and nodded obediently. She basically listened to Wang Yu. Furthermore, she did not have much confidence in her alcohol tolerance. Although she was a rebirth realm expert, her alcohol tolerance was still very low. If she drank too much, it would not be good to go crazy. Little girl, your alcohol tolerance is not bad. Madame Scorpion smiled at Wang Yu. She knew her own wine very well. This 5 poison wine, although it was said to be non-toxic, it was actually poisonous. The key was who was drinking. How was it drunk? It was like mortal wine. If you did not have a high alcohol tolerance, you would still be poisoned if you drank too much. 5 poison wine, as the name suggested, was brewed from the essence of the 5 poisons. Its spiritual energy was extremely strong, but if the drinker could not completely dissolve it, they would quickly get drunk or even be poisoned. Madame Scorpion understood. In terms of alcohol tolerance, Sumo could not even compare to Wang Yu. I used to drink a lot, but now I drink less. But today, I can drink with Senior, as long as Senior's story is good. Wang Yu smiled. Hearing Wang Yu's words, Sumo's heart moved, because he suddenly thought of someone. But now was not the time to ask, so he did not mention it. Good. I still have a lot of wine in my flask. Madame Scorpion's spirits rose. This might be the last time she drank before taking the 9-death rejuvenation pill. And after taking the 9-death rejuvenation pill, she could not drink anymore. My story will definitely go well with alcohol. Madame Scorpion smiled desolately. Moreover, you can get drunk. That's because it's like a dream. Sumo and Wang Yu didn't say anything. Sumo held the bowl of wine, while Wang Yu waved his hand and took out a jar of old wine from his storage bag. Wang Yu's meaning was clear. There was still a lot of wine. Surprisingly, the wine jar was also an exalted divine weapon. Sumo grinned in her heart. What kind of family was this? Were the people from the magical fantasy mansion so domineering? The venerable divine weapon was something that belonged to their family? Shun Ming was meticulously roasting the meat while silently sipping his wine. She had only drunk the wine from that old wine jar once. After that, she went crazy for 3 days and didn't dare to drink it again. The cave was very quiet. Everyone was waiting for Madame Scorpion's story to go with the wine. Madame Scorpion raised her bowl of wine and took a sip before letting out a long sigh. That sigh seemed to have penetrated through millions of years of time. At that moment, Madame Scorpion's eyes faintly lit up. That light was different from others. The five poison realm is truly ruled by the five poison star. I guess you all can guess this. Madam Scorpion's voice was like an old wind box, hoarse and dull. The other five stars have always been supporting the five poison star. And there's only one sect on the five poison star. That is the five poison divine sect. Five poison divine sect. Sumo and the other two listened very seriously. They had never heard of this sect before. Murong Haiching's map did not have any indication of it. The five poison divine sect has been ruling the five poison realm for close to millions of years. The five poison divine sect has one saint and five envoys. The so-called one saint is the five poison saint. The saint is usually the strongest cultivator in the five poison divine sect. In fact, it is the sect leader. He has absolute authority, and his realm is definitely the highest in the five poison divine sect. And the five envoys are the five poison dark envoys. In order to better rule the other five stars, the sect has sent a dark world envoy to each star. This envoy is actually the true ruler of these five stars. The immortal scorpion, snake star, centipede, lizard, and toad have to pay tribute to the five poison divine sect every 10,000 years. And I am the former immortal scorpion dark envoy. Madam Scorpion let out a long sigh. The five poison divine sect has many elders under the sect leader. However, the status of those elders cannot be compared to the five poison dark envoys. The five poison dark envoys each control a star, like a feudal lord. In order to ensure fairness, the sect has a rule. The five poison dark envoys cannot be promoted to Saint Venerable, and the five poison dark envoys need to be appointed by the sect. They cannot be inherited, nor can they be passed on by themselves. Moreover, once they are appointed as the dark envoy, without the summons of the Saint Venerable, they cannot return to the five poison star. For many tens of thousands of years, to be able to become a dark envoy is an extremely glorious thing in the five poison divine sect. It is even the goal of many five poison divine sect cultivators. Every cultivator of the five poison sacred sect is desperately cultivating day and night. That situation has been maintained for more than 8 million years. The five poison divine sect is getting stronger day by day. However, there are always people who are unwilling to be below others. Madam Scorpion sneered. The five poison dark envoys are only below one person, above millions. However, having someone above them is better than having no one. Therefore, among the five poison dark envoys, there are people who are beginning to stir. Actually, those who are chosen to be the five poison dark envoys are all extremely talented people in the five poison divine sect. Character, cultivation, and wisdom are all indispensable. In the five poison divine sect, there is a selection every 10,000 years. And after 10 selections, only then can they become the five poison saints and the dark envoys reserve cultivators. Those reserve cultivators in the entire divine sect, there are only 21. Then, after 1 million years of selection and training, the strongest among them may become a venerable saint. However, he must wait until the previous venerable saint dies. Therefore, he may not become a venerable saint in his life, and will only be the great elder. There are also 5 cultivators who will become dark envoys, and the rest will become ordinary elders of the sect. This is the selection system of the 5 poison divine sect. Speaking until here, Madam Scorpion took a big gulp of wine. Little girl, is your meat ready? Madam Scorpion asked Shunming. Oh, it's ready. Just now. Shunming was so engrossed that he almost forgot that he was still grilling meat. Madam Scorpion's question reminded Shunming of something. When he looked again, Shunming waved his hand. The golden grill was opened, and the meat inside flew out. Shunming had naturally prepared everything, and the fragrant meat landed on the jade plate in front of everyone. Madam Scorpion did not hesitate, and used her long sleeves to roll up a big piece of meat and open her mouth to chew. Hee, good meat, Madam Scorpion praised. She seemed to be using this method to ease her emotions. She took another big gulp of wine. Hi, Madam Scorpion let out a long breath. Sumo and Wang Yu did not say anything. They both knew that Madame Scorpion was about to bring up the key person. Sumo silently ate a mouthful of bear meat. Wang Yu, on the other hand, was drinking. She did not seem to be drinking very fast, but Madame Scorpion did not fall behind her. They had already drunk 4 big bowls. The 5 poison star is my home planet, Madame Scorpion continued. Ever since I can remember, I have lived in the divine sect, because my parents were both cultivators of the divine sect. That year, I finally passed all the selections and tests and became one of the 21 cultivators. Madame Scorpion smiled. At that moment, she seemed to have returned to the past. Among them, there was a senior brother who was my childhood friend. Madame Scorpion's tone had a subtle change. Chapter 978. Childhood Sweethearts? Hearing this, Wang Yu's wine cup paused for a moment. Then he smiled meaningfully. Shen Ming was quick to speak and interrupted. Childhood sweethearts are the most untrustworthy. Oh, Madame Scorpion said, little girl, why do you say that? Because love at first sight is not as good as childhood sweethearts. Shen Ming said, you treat him as a lover, but who would have known that he treats you as a sister? Hearing this, Wang Yu couldn't help but glare at Shen Ming. Seeing this, Shen Ming hurriedly stuffed a piece of meat into his mouth to prevent trouble from coming from his mouth. Hee. Hearing Shen Ming's words, Madame Scorpion nodded. Little girl, your words make sense. However, if I met a senior brother who treats me as his own sister, it would be my good fortune. Unfortunately, I encountered a venomous snake, an extremely venomous snake. Hearing this, Wang Yu and Shen Ming both frowned. It seemed that Madame Scorpion's misfortune was not what they had imagined. The competition for the 21 reserve cultivators of the Holy Sect is extremely fierce, because no one is willing to become a normal sect elder. So each of us desperately cultivated, and at the same time, we put our all into every test and competition. In order to win, we are often unscrupulous. During the selection process, other than not killing the other party, all other methods are allowed by the sect, because we train and nurture cultivators who can face all kinds of problems. Those 21 cultivators, every one of them is the elite of the 5 poison holy sects elites. Between us, it can't be considered scheming, but it is indeed a fierce competition. So, among these people, to have someone that we can absolutely trust is extremely precious. Madame Scorpion took a sip of wine. That way, we can win in the final selection. You and your senior brother, at that time, were people that could trust each other, right? Sumo also took a sip of wine. That 5 poison wine was really not suitable for drinking. That's right. We grew up together, and our masters are both elders of the Holy Sect. The 2 of us are Master's proudest disciples. In the entire Sage Sect, he is the only one who can have 2 disciples enter the top 21 cultivators. In the past, we were Master's pride. Madame Scorpion's eyes were filled with guilt. Unfortunately, we became his humiliation. To be able to be selected as one of the 21 cultivators, our minds are actually extremely mature, and our wills are extremely firm. Senior brother and I were childhood sweethearts, and we helped each other in our cultivation. In fact, the fact that we were able to enter the ranks of 21 cultivators is inseparable from this. We swore that we would definitely become the 5 poisons emissary and control 1 star. Senior apprentice brother is more talented. I will admit this at any time. He was the first of the 21 to become a venerable. When he became a venerable, the highest cultivation level for the rest of us was only at the 9th level of the rebirth realm. Most of us were at the 7th or 8th level of the rebirth realm. You should understand the difference between us. Sumo nodded. Not to mention the difference between a venerable and a 9th layer rebirth realm expert. Even a venerable and a peak rebirth realm expert had a qualitative difference. Therefore, the senior brother that Madame Scorpion mentioned was definitely someone who surpassed his peers. My cultivation level was originally in the middle of the 21 cultivators. When senior apprentice brother was in the venerable realm, I was only at the 7th level of the rebirth realm. My ranking was outside the top 10. At this point, Madame Scorpion suddenly drained the wine in her bowl. Then, he was the one who helped you become a five poisons emissary? Sumo guessed. Yes. Madame Scorpion refilled her bowl of wine. Actually, even now, I admit that Senior Apprentice Brother was sincere in helping me. Because, without him, I would not have become a venerable. There were a total of more than 10 selections for the 21 cultivators. The first few selections I was always behind, and there were always people plotting against me. There were a few times when I almost died during the missions. Senior Apprentice Brother risked his life to save me 3 times, and once he almost fell from the venerable realm. Did cultivators really die during the missions? One you asked. Yes. Madame Scorpion nodded. Our batch of 21 cultivators was reduced to 17. 4 of them died during the various missions. The 5 Poison Sacred Sect is really not simple. Sumo sighed, because they all knew that those who died were definitely high-leveled rebirth realm cultivators. That kind of existence was considered a high-leveled cultivator even in the entire Izong world. The 5 Poison Sacred Sect would rather sacrifice them to nurture true elites. Not every sect had this kind of boldness. This could also explain why the 5 Poisons Kingdom had such great power. Madame Scorpion, a 5 Poisons emissary, was actually in the venerable realm. Thinking about it, the 5 Poisons Reverend was most likely a Lotus Knight. Originally, Senior Apprentice Brother and I had feelings for each other. After going through so many life and death situations, our friendship naturally deepened. However, the sacred sect has an iron rule. What iron rule? Sumo frowned and asked. Reverend sages, 5 Poisons emissaries, and sect elders are not allowed to marry each other. Madame Scorpion said. Oh, Sumo could not help but smile. I believe you already know this iron rule. Then why did you choose the 21 cultivators and wanted to become 5 Poisons emissaries? Hee hee. Madame Scorpion laughed self-deprecatingly. There is always greed in people's hearts, because the 21 cultivators could obtain the best resources in the sacred sect. Otherwise, how could we become venerables? So, you guys could only secretly marry each other? Sumo said. Yes. In private, we had already become Tao companions, but we did not dare let others know. Madame Scorpion smiled bitterly. We hoped that we could have both fish and bear's paw. Have both fish and bear's paw. Hearing this, Sumo could only smile helplessly, because that was the wish of many people. But that was just an extravagant wish. Madame Scorpion's tone was slightly cold. Or should I say, that was my extravagant wish. In the last election, he was ranked first. He could have become the Reverend Sage's inheritor. But he refused. Oh, why? Wang Yu frowned and asked. Madame Scorpion shook her head. Actually, I did not understand at that time. After all, the Reverend Sage's position was higher than the Dark Emissary. But, among the 21, the one who was ranked first could be chosen first. In the history of the sacred sect, there were precedents, because many of the Reverend Sage's inheritors could not survive until the Reverend Sage. In their entire lives, they could not become a Reverend Sage. He chose to become the Green Snake Dark Emissary. But the Green Snake star was the most backward star among the 5 stars. Hearing this, Sumo laughed coldly. Presumably, at that moment, your senior brother already had the intention to rebel. He wanted to control one star. That way, it would be easier to control the entire 5 Poison world, right? That's right. He was a person who could endure extremely patiently. Madame Scorpion said. He wanted to control everything, and it was an extraordinary method. On the 5 Poison Star, there were many elders and reverend sages. All of these were his obstacles, and he was ambitious. He wanted to control the entire 5 Poison world. Anyone could become his chess piece, including me, because he had already been chosen by the Black Lotus, or rather, he chose the Black Lotus. Chapter 979. Someone chosen by Black Lotus? Hearing Madame Scorpion's words, Sumo was slightly stunned. Could it be that not all of the dark worlds were under the control of the Black Lotus? Was the five poison sacred sect not the power of the Black Lotus? What is a Black Lotus? Sumo couldn't help but ask. Actually, I still don't know what the Black Lotus is, Madam Scorpion said in disappointment. However, the Black Lotus possesses immense power. Now, the entire five poison star boundary is under Black Lotus's control. Oh, Sumo responded, but didn't ask any further. Back then, Senior Brother succeeded in becoming the Green Snake Envoy and was assigned to the venomous Snake Planet. However, the people of the Viper Star called their star the Immortal Snake Star. Just like how the other four-star cultivators call the Immortal Scorpion Star as the Venomous Scorpion Star, we call ourselves the Immortal Scorpion Star. There has always been an open and veiled struggle between the five celebrities, and I became the Immortal Scorpion Star's Dark Envoy. From this point of view, we can be considered to have gotten what we wanted. Well, other than the fact that you can't be together, it doesn't seem too bad. Shen Ming tilted his head and said, Hee hee. Madam Scorpion nodded. Little girl, you're right. We've all become envoys of darkness. It can be said that we're only below one person and above tens of thousands. But we are all unwilling. Senior Brother isn't willing to be an emissary of darkness. He wants to become the ruler of the five poison world. His status was even higher than that of the Venerable Sage. As for me, I am unwilling to be trapped on the Immortal Scorpion Star, unable to stay with him forever. Senior Martial Brother has great talent and bold vision. For 100,000 years, he had completely changed the appearance of the Viper Star. The Green Snake Star, which was originally the weakest, became the strongest star among the five stars under his rule. His cultivation had also reached the 8th layer Martial Highness realm. However, this has aroused the suspicions of some elders in the sect, Madam Scorpion said. It's no secret that I'm his junior sister. Our master is also a well-known elder in Glory Sect. That's why some of the elders are worried that we will join forces and bring harm to the entire Sage sect. Actually, this worry was proven to be completely correct later on, because Senior Brother indeed had the idea of overthrowing the Venerable Saint and gathering troops to stand on his own. However, he was not strong enough at that time. In order to divide our strength, the Honorable Sage first demoted Master to an ordinary disciple and took back all of his rights as an elder. However, he has been providing for Master on the Five Poison Star. Actually, that was a warning to us. After that, we were both betrothed by the Venerable Sage. Senior Apprentice Brother was asked to marry Azure Snake King's daughter, while I was married to the Immortal Scorpion Sect Master at that time. Have you all agreed? One you asked. So what if I don't agree? Lady Scorpion said. At that time, our strength was not enough to contend with Venerable Sage. Moreover, Venerable Sage did not do anything wrong. It was a tradition of the Five Poison Planet to bestow marriage upon them. Emissaries of the Dark World should marry into the powerful families of the stars they control. Now that I think about it, no one forced us to become the Five Poison Emissaries. However, since we chose the Five Poison Envoy, we have to give up some things. Actually, I was extremely against it at first. I want to be with Senior Brother with all my heart. I even wanted to give up everything with him and escape from the Five Poison world. But he doesn't agree? Wang Yu sneered. Yes. Lady Scorpion nodded. First, we might not be able to escape. Second, he told me to endure patiently. If I give him another 100,000 years, he will definitely obtain everything. 100,000 years? Wang Yu raised his eyebrows and asked, You agreed? Because, to a venerable, 100,000 years was not a short amount of time. Yes, I believe him. Lady Scorpion nodded. Thus, I became Lady Scorpion, and he became Azure Snake King. At that time, I hoped to use 100,000 years to exchange for everything. Thus, in 100,000 years, I trained with all my might while secretly accumulating power. I used all kinds of shady methods to firmly grasp the entire Immortal Scorpion Planet in my hands. I even used poison to cripple the Immortal Scorpion Sect Master. However, no one knew that I did it back then. In the eyes of the Immortal Scorpion Sect's cultivators, I am the embodiment of beauty and wisdom but in reality, I am indeed a poisonous beauty." Lady Scorpion laughed coldly, as if mocking herself. Sumo and Wang Yu did not reply. They understood that when Lady Scorpion said these words, every single one of her words was most likely aimed at their hearts. 100,000 years later, you rebelled? Shen Ming asked. Hee hee. Lady Scorpion laughed bitterly and shook her head. No. Why? Shen Ming asked. Because the time was not right. Lady Scorpion said, seeing your brother's progress was slow. He had reached a bottleneck and could not reach the peak of the venerable realm. And to fight against a venerable saint, he needed to be at least a peak of the venerable realm. Thus, I could only wait. That kind of waiting was torturous. He lied to you, right? Sumo said. Hee hee. Lady Scorpion laughed coldly and nodded. Men still understand men. Actually, he had reached the peak of the venerable realm long ago. However, he did not make a move, because his main goal was no longer to be with me, but to control the entire five-poison world with the lowest cost. He had already become a Black Lotus cultivator. He had always been lying to me. Lady Scorpion's face was a little twisted. In the end, I waited bitterly for 300,000 years. 300,000 years. Wang Yu and Shun Ming could not help but look at each other, because this kind of waiting was different from waking up for millions of years. That 100,000 years was a kind of torture for every minute and second. 1,000,000 years ago, the five-poison star world finally erupted in an unprecedented war. Lady Scorpion's tone was a little hurried. The immortal scorpion and poisonous snake stars attacked one after another. The centipede and gecko stars watched from the sidelines. The toadstar's secret agent was poisoned to death by my people. There were already spies on the five-poison star. Half of the elders had already secretly pledged their allegiance to us. And the last elder who resisted with his life was actually our master. He swore to protect the original venerable saint, and in the end, he self-detonated. He said that we were his disgrace. Lady Scorpion's voice was a little low. That year, I was the one who led the charge. The entire war was started by the immortal scorpion star. Thus, my hands were stained with blood. The entire five-poison star world changed their expressions when they heard Lady Scorpion's name. I even personally massacred the original immortal scorpion sect master's family. The old, the weak, the women, and the children were not spared. Lady Scorpion became the synonym of a poisonous woman. Hee hee. Lady Scorpion laughed coldly. Many people even thought that I planned everything. However, I did not care about any of that. As long as I could be with my senior, then everything would be worth it. He promised me that as long as he ascended to the venerable saint position and controlled the five-poison star world, he would marry me and make me his wife. He also destroyed the Green Snake King family. This wine pouch of mine was refined by him using the green snake skin. Also, that pill formula. Lady Scorpion laughed bitterly. That war caused the entire five-poison star world to regress at least hundreds of thousands of years. White bones piled up, and blood flowed like an ocean. However, we succeeded. He ascended to the venerable saint position, and even took away the autonomy of the five-poison secret agents. And in the endless slaughter, I hope to become the wife of the venerable saint. Chapter 980. The Battle of the Five Poisons lasted for 30 years. Looking at it now, it was a calamity for the five-poison world. We killed the previous venerable sage and quickly swept away all the opposing forces. The first thing Senior Brother did after ascending the venerable sage throne was to change the era to the Black Lotus first year. Black Lotus first year. Sumo and Wang Yu frowned. At that time, I did not know about the Black Lotus, but I did not ask. What the era name was not important to me. Senior Brother took away the autonomy of the five poison envoys, but he still conferred titles to them. But what I did not expect was that he still conferred me the title of Lady Scorpion and built this immortal scorpion palace on the five poison star. I can live here. He did not confer you the title of Venerable Sage Queen? Shen Ming asked. No. Lady Scorpion shook her head. I asked him before. His answer was, "The world has just been settled, and it is not easy to confer titles. Otherwise, people's hearts will change, and the political situation will become unstable. When everything is stable, he will announce it to the entire five-poison world." Hee hee. Wang Yu laughed coldly, gathering troops to rebel, killing the emperor. He even dared to do such things. Why would he be afraid of people's hearts changing? Actually, I had the same thoughts at that time. But I still followed his wishes and moved into the immortal Scorpion Palace. At the start, he often came to see me and gave me many cultivation resources. To be honest, although I was not conferred the title of Venerable Sage Queen, I had a very happy time. We could stay together every day, and there were no obstructions on the five-poison star. My cultivation increased by leaps and bounds, as if there was a formless energy constantly pouring into my body. Every 300 to 400 years, I would advance by a small realm. That feeling of cultivation constantly rising made me forget everything for a while. After a whole 3,000 years, my cultivation actually rose to the 9th stage of the Venerable Realm. 9th stage of the Venerable Realm, hee hee, Lady Scorpion coldly repeated, but I neglected that the time between senior brother visits me became longer and longer, and the time we spent together became shorter and shorter. The smile on his face also became less and less. The day I advanced to the 9th stage of the Venerable Realm, he came to the immortal Scorpion Palace. Unfortunately, I didn't notice anything unusual at that time. Later on, when I thought about it, I felt that something was wrong. Senior apprentice brother is an extremely handsome man. However, on the last day we met, he seemed to be wearing a mask. His smile was stiff and his eyes were cold. That day, he brought a jug of wine to celebrate with me. At this point, Madame Scorpion picked up the wine bowl in front of her and drained it in one gulp. Hee hee, I am a greedy person. Madame Scorpion's gaze suddenly turned cold as she said fiercely, "That day, that jug of wine completely destroyed me. There's poison in that bottle of wine." After drinking the flagon of wine, I fell into a stupor, and I do not know how long I slept. But I had a big, long dream. In the dream, my entire body was boiling hot, as if 10,000 ants were gnawing at my heart. In the dream, senior apprentice brother was cursing me loudly. Speaking to this point, Madame Scorpion's body slightly trembled. That feeling from back then seemed to be unable to be erased from her soul. After I woke up, everything was different. My face was ruined, and my lower body had completely turned into a scorpion. Other than my realm, everything about me had changed. I do not know what happened. In the immortal Scorpion Palace, those cultivators and palace made to serve me were still there. But they did not know what happened. They could not recognize me, and fled in all directions. But I started a massacre, and in the immortal Scorpion Palace, blood flowed like a river. In the immortal Scorpion Palace, most of the cultivators were killed by me. I went crazy and wanted to rush out of the immortal Scorpion Palace. But in the entire immortal Scorpion Palace, there was a powerful restriction that only targeted me. Everyone else could escape, but I could not. That day, I saw the Black Lotus floating above the immortal Scorpion Palace for the first time. But no one else could see it. Madame Scorpion is crazy. This is a rumor that I only found out after I came back, because I kept shouting for the Black Lotus. In the immortal Scorpion Palace, I shouted every day. My tears turned into blood. But no one replied. In the blink of an eye, another 3,000 years passed, and senior apprentice brother finally appeared. But he did not seem to be him anymore. That day, he wore a fitting black robe and looked at me with extremely cold eyes. Together with him, there was a beautiful female cultivator that I had never seen before. That person, was he really your senior apprentice brother? Sumo frowned and asked, because he felt that there was something fishy about this. That green snake senior apprentice brother did not seem to have a need to harm Madame Scorpion. Hee hee. Madame Scorpion laughed coldly. Actually, I thought so too, but I was sure that it was him, because there were many things other than him and me no one else knew. Our vows of eternal love and all our secrets, he remembered them all. But he changed his mind. That day, he came to tell me that he had already bestowed that beautiful female cultivator as the revered Saint Queen. Was there a need for that? Wang Yu said, and why did he harm you? Because I no longer had any value to him. Back then, he only hoped to borrow my power in the immortal scorpion star. Also, he told me that, back then, I was the one who started the 5-poison war. Only by punishing me would he be able to repay the world, Madame Scorpion said. At the same time, he told me that he had already bestowed a new secret emissary on the immortal scorpion star. I was already crippled. Ridiculous. Wang Yu asked again, but why didn't he just kill you directly? To amuse himself, Madame Scorpion said, or rather, to amuse his queen. Sumo and Wang Yu both frowned. That day, he asked that beautiful woman to whip me 3,000 times. He was drinking and laughing at the side. Madame Scorpion's voice trembled slightly. You still have your realm? Can't you resist? Wang Yu said. No, Madame Scorpion said, because he had already advanced to the Lotus Knight realm, and that beautiful woman was also a stage 9 venerable realm. They were enough to suppress me, not to mention that there was that special restriction. For a whole 100,000 years, they often came to the immortal Scorpion Palace. I became a toy for them to amuse themselves. The poisonous scars on my face were caused by the poisonous wine, and the other scars were all caused by their knives. I no longer have both arms. I don't know how many times my arms have been broken by them. Originally, I wanted to use my magical power to be reborn, but later on, I completely lost that desire. As she spoke, Madame Scorpion's clothes fell off her body. Her upper body was full of crisscross scars and layers of scale-like things. Her lower body was completely a scorpion. Her arms were completely non-existent, and her shoulders were black holes. It was too horrible to look at. Why? Wang Yu's gaze was extremely cold, because she really did not understand. Why did that green snake king do this? He is worse than a pig or a dog. Shenming's eyes were also red. Sumo, on the other hand, tightly frowned as if deep in thought. He. Ha ha. Madame Scorpion was naked. Actually, her body could no longer be called a body. She laughed maniacally. Using her thoughts, she rolled up the snakeskin wine pouch and poured wine into her mouth from the void. The wine poured down like a waterfall, drenching her body, but it could not extinguish the endless love, hatred, grief, and anger in her heart. Chapter 981. The green snake wine pouch floated in the air, the wine pouring down like a waterfall. At that moment, Madame Scorpion wanted to go into a drunken stupor again, forgetting all the pain, forgetting what day it was. But the current her was already drunk. Cough, cough, cough. But the wine fell too fast, causing Madame Scorpion to cough. Then, the green snake wine pouch fell on the table. Wang Yu shook her head helplessly, finished the wine in her bowl, then opened her own wine jar. Then, how did you run out? Cough, cough. Madame Scorpion laughed bitterly. Then, they must have gotten tired of playing and stopped coming. That immortal Scorpion Palace's restriction also slowly faded. In their eyes, I was already a complete cripple. Gradually, I became lax in my restrictions. I finally found a chance to escape immortal Scorpion Palace. When I just escaped, I once wandered around 5-Poison Star. But what I saw gave me a huge shock. Senior brother, he had already become a saint and was singing happily every day. In the past, he promised me everything. Almost all have not been done. On 5-Poison Star, anyone who disobeyed was immediately executed. Once I was discovered and captured by them. He still did not kill you? Wang Yu asked. No. At that time, I used my powers to return to my original appearance. But I was personally forced to drink poison wine by senior brother. Then I was raped by that evil woman and returned to my current appearance. Not only that, they even placed a black lotus curse on my body, making me forever like this. They did not kill me. They only wanted to torture me. They wanted to destroy my body and mind. That time, it could be said that I was completely destroyed. Madame Scorpion said, after that, I escaped to immortal Scorpion Star and hid in my previous cave, rarely going out. It was no secret that I was an immortal scorpion sex back mountain. However, I was like a forgotten and despised lunatic. No one paid any attention to me. The previous immortal scorpion sect leaders all kept their distance from me. Black Mountain was immortal scorpion sect's forbidden ground. Xiao Wuzi also met me by chance. After that, he often came to see me. I once thought of dying. However, one of my former subordinates brought me a piece of news. He said that my senior brother has a pill formula that can break the curse on me. Therefore, I racked my brains and returned to 5 poison stars several times before I finally managed to steal that pill formula. But now that he thought about it, that pill recipe was also a trap, because that pill formula used up all of my ingredients. However, for the past million years, I've relied on this pill formula to survive. With the recipe, I've always wanted to refine the 9 Deaths rejuvenation pill. However, he had never succeeded. Until you guys showed up, Madame Scorpion calmed down a little. After saying that, she started to eat and drink. She put on her tattered white robe again. She finally emerged from her memories. You ate the 9 Deaths rejuvenation pill just to get revenge? Sumo said. That's right. Madame Scorpion sneered. Half of the credit goes to me for the current 5 poison sacred sect. Back then, if it wasn't for me, senior brother definitely wouldn't have succeeded. And now, I will destroy him and glory sect with my own hands. What stage is he at? Sumo asked. I'm not sure. Madame Scorpion said. He should be at stage 1. All these years, I've never heard of him breaking through. Lotus stage 1. Sumo nodded and did not say anything else. Actually, even if he was at stage 1, Sumo did not have the confidence to win. And could the 9 Deaths rejuvenation pill really help Madame Scorpion reach the Lotus stage? What happens after you get your revenge? Wang Yu asked. Then? Hee. Madame Scorpion laughed hoarsely. Silly girl, what then? I will naturally turn into ashes and perish together with them. Is it worth it? Wang Yu asked. It's not worth it. Madame Scorpion shook her head and sighed. It's hard to tell if it's worth it or not. As long as it suits my heart, then it's all worth it. I don't regret what happened back then. Now, I have no complaints, even if I want to eat the 9 Deaths rejuvenation pill. All of this is my own choice. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Wang Yu nodded heavily when she heard this. Then, she filled Madame Scorpion's bowl with her own wine jar. Madame Scorpion, I salute you. Wang Yu said. I salute your state of mind. Good. Madame Scorpion laughed. Then, the two of them clinked their wine bowls. Dang, they drained their wine in one gulp. Good wine. Madame Scorpion praised loudly. There's actually such good wine in the infinite realms? Ha! Old woman, to be able to drink wine like this, my life has not been in vain. Again, Wang Yu's expression did not change. She continued to fill Madame Scorpion's bowl. The two of them drank to their heart's content again. At this moment, this place seemed to have become Madame Scorpion and Wang Yu's home court. The two of them toasted each other. It was unknown how much wine they had drunk. In any case, Wang Yu's wine jar seemed to have an inexhaustible supply of wine. Madame Scorpion treated this as the last drink of her life. Thus, she drank to her heart's content and crazily. Wang Yu, on the other hand, felt sympathy for Madame Scorpion and willingly accompanied her. How much wine can your sister drink? Sumo quietly asked Shunming. I don't know. Shunming sipped his own wine while chewing on the spotted bear meat. But I have never seen her drunk before. One year, on a Milky Way day, there was a banquet in the Fantasy Fiend Mansion. Father, mother, Qing Mo, Xing Fei, Yu Qiumu, Dong Wang, and the rest were all there. But they fought in turns, and in the end, they were all defeated by my sister. So powerful. Sumo was shocked. Of course. Shunming nodded proudly. My sister's alcohol tolerance is indescribable. But how is she so powerful? Sumo was confused. Even Mo Lang and Qing Mo couldn't win against her. I don't know why she is so powerful. Shunming shook his head. In any case, before she reincarnated, my sister drank day and night. She faced the distant stars and drank day and night without getting drunk. She, Shunming stole a glance at Wang Yu and said in a low voice, "She misses brother Amu. My father and mother said that it is an illness and cannot be cured." Hee hee. Sumo smiled and nodded. Could it be that longing can be turned into wine? Plop. At this moment, Madame Scorpion suddenly fell to the ground and started snoring. She was finally drunk. Wang Yu's expression did not change. He held the wine bowl in one hand, and his eyes were clear and deep. Shunming was not surprised by this scene, but Sumo was dumbfounded. Wang Yu's alcohol tolerance was really unbelievable. Demon King, it is not that longing can be turned into wine. It is that all wine can be turned into tears. But none of the tears can surpass the river of forgetfulness. So I am never drunk. Sumo knew everything about Wang Yu's past. Hearing this, she could not help but be silent for a long time. On the other hand, Shunming sighed again and again. All the wine of the worlds can be turned into tears. But how can the tears of the worlds rival the river of forgetfulness? Chapter 982. 7 days later, Madame Scorpion woke up from her drunken stupor. It was truly a good drunken stupor. In these 7 days, Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shunming sat in meditation and chatted, waiting for her to wake up. During this time, Wu Daoyong had also advanced to the 4th stage of Rebirth Realm. When Madame Scorpion woke up, Shunming specially prepared bear meat soup for her. "Hi." Madame Scorpion drank a large bowl of meat soup, then looked at Sumo and the rest. "What a dream! What a drunken stupor! What a meeting! Hee hee. Everyone, I am about to take the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill. If I can survive the 9 deaths, then we will meet again in 9 days. If not, then it can be considered fate." Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shunming did not say anything, because they had already said what they needed to say. They understood that Madame Scorpion had already made up her mind and could not change it. Elder Scorpion. Wu Daoyong wanted to say something, but stopped. Madame Scorpion looked at Wu Daoyong. "Little Wu, you are not bad. Although you're a bit timid, you are much stronger than the rest of the immortal Scorpion sect and can be considered as loyal. I will give you this broken bag." Saying so, Madame Scorpion took out a storage bag from her tattered clothes. There are still many things inside. Basically, they are all venerable level items. If something really happens to me with the things inside, you will be able to survive in the 5 poison world. If you cannot survive, then you can follow them back to Greenwood Sect. Madame Scorpion threw the storage bag to Wu Daoyong. Elder Scorpion, Wu Daoyong directly kneeled on the ground, his voice trembling. "This disciple hopes that you will return in 9 days. Hee hee." Madame Scorpion laughed. "It is my good fortune that there are still people who remember me." Saying so, Madame Scorpion turned around and did not look back. She directly chose a relatively large cave room in the main hall and floated in. Behind her, countless scorpions of different sizes followed, densely packed. Madame Scorpion was like a scorpion king. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Many spiritual scorpions gathered together like a dark brown river. That cave did not have a stone door, but the spirit scorpions guarded the entrance layer by layer. The little spirit scorpion crawled on the big spirit scorpion's body, and in the end, only a 1-foot-wide hole was left. However, Sumo and the others could see it clearly. Madame Scorpion entered the cave and took out the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill. The scarlet pill was like a drop of flame, but it emitted a pungent smell. Madame Scorpion looked at the red orb, and her lips curled up. She muttered to herself, "Senior brother, perhaps we will meet again soon. You must wait for me." Madame Scorpion's tone carried a sinister, yet indescribable gentleness. Then, she waved her long sleeve. He directly swallowed the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill. As soon as the pill entered her mouth, Madame Scorpion let out a blood-curdling scream and fell to the ground. At that moment, she felt as if a fire snake had drilled in her throat. It was a fiery and fishy sensation. It was an indescribable feeling. Madame Scorpion had suffered greatly. The torture she had gone through back then was indescribable. However, even so, the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill made her retch violently. Cough, cough. Cough, cough. Madame Scorpion coughed violently. Her eyes instantly turned red, but she did not cough out anything. The 9 Deaths rejuvenation pill had already fallen into her dancy. 61 library in an instant. She felt as if her entire dancy was ablaze. It was a fire that was burning from the inside out. The raging flames burned like a prairie fire. Sizzle, sizzle. However, to Madame Scorpion, the fire was like a life-threatening fire. Inside her dancy, a green mist rose. Madame Scorpion's dancy was being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Her spiritual energy was disappearing. Madame Scorpion was mentally prepared for the 9 Deaths rejuvenation pill's effect, but the speed of the pill's effect still exceeded her expectations. Madame Scorpion was hunched on the ground. Her body was sometimes curled up, sometimes trembling. At that moment, her entire body was emitting a faint red glow, as if she was being roasted by fire. Madame Scorpion closed her eyes and gritted her teeth. She tried her best not to scream, but the sound was rolling in her throat. Therefore, the whimpering sound was the cry of an injured beast. Outside the cave, Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shen Ming saw everything clearly. However, none of them had the ability to alleviate Madame Scorpion's pain. Moreover, they understood that the 9 births and 9 deaths were just the beginning. Madame Scorpion had to endure all of this to obtain her last chance. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours later, Madame Scorpion was already rolling left and right in the cave, screaming. That kind of pain was completely uncontrollable. She had to scream. Madame Scorpion's body started to bleed with golden blood. Then, the blood started to burn on her body, as if it was going to burn her alive. Madame Scorpion's screams did not stop. Her screams were heart-wrenching. Wang Yu's expression was still considered calm. Shen Ming, on the other hand, was already somewhat unwilling to continue watching. Therefore, Sumo waved her hand and directly set up a boundary in front of the cave. The sound disappeared. Spirit Scorpion, the cave, and Madame Scorpion were already in another boundary. Sumo and the rest were in the original hall. Phew! Shen Ming let out a long sigh. Madame Scorpion is really pitiful. That kind of torture, even I can't stand it. I really don't know how she can endure it. She relied on her obsession. Otherwise, she would not be able to endure it. Wang Yu said, "Sis, do you think that Madame Scorpion will be able to endure it? 9 births and 9 deaths. I don't think she can even survive the first death." Shen Ming still had lingering fear when he recalled the scene just now. "She definitely can." Wang Yu said, "Why?" Shen Ming did not understand. "Because if it is for my brother, I can also endure it." Wang Yu said, "Huh?" Shen Ming was stunned. "How can that be the same? You love brother AMU, but Madame Scorpion hates her senior brother to the bone." "What do you know?" Wang Yu said disdainfully. "Didn't you hear Madame Scorpion calls him senior brother? Maybe even she herself does not realize that senior brother is actually an obsession in her heart. Whether it is love or hate, I'm afraid she herself does not know. Everything she does revolves around that senior brother, isn't it?" "Oh." Shen Ming listened and nodded thoughtfully. "Sis, what you said is so profound. But I feel that it makes sense." "Of course it makes sense." Wang Yu said that Madame Scorpion did not let go. Otherwise, she would not be restricted and could have left the 5 poison realm, but she did not. Her life and death is related to her senior brother. Shen Ming nodded, and Sumo could not help but nod. Wu Daoyu, who was at the side, let out a long sigh. Chapter 983. A whole 7 days. Sumo, Wang Yu, Shen Ming, and Wu Daoyong sat in a corner of the hall. In these 7 days, Sumo and Wang Yu were stable, while Shen Ming and Wu Daoyong were unstable. Shen Ming was active by nature, but Wu Dao's weakness was his lack of concentration. At the same time, through his observation, Wu Daoyong knew that Sumo and the rest were hiding their cultivation. They were not disciples of the Greenwood sect, but were hiding their identities. But Wu Daoyong followed the principle of listening more and did not dare to ask too many questions. After all, In the middle of a group of powerful beings, staying alive was more important. In these 7 days, Sumo did not open the barrier. Because, in Sumo's opinion, if Madame Scorpion could not even survive the first 7 days, then she would not even be able to survive. So, he was not in a hurry to open the barrier. At this time, Shenming was not in the mood to meditate. He sat cross-legged with one hand on his cheek, deep in thought. "What are you thinking about?" Sumo opened her eyes and asked. "Sai, I'm thinking of something to eat. I'm a bit tired of eating bear meat." Shenming pouted, looking bored. "I wonder how Madame Scorpion is doing. Actually, I want to get a few spirit scorpions and fry them." Crunch, crunch, crunch. Hee. Sumo laughed. "Those spirit scorpions are Madame Scorpion's protectors. We cannot eat them." "Then let's see Madame Scorpion." Finished, Sumo waved her hand. The barrier in front of them instantly opened a door. That door faced Madame Scorpion's cave room. At the entrance of the cave room, there were still spirit scorpions surrounding it. Layers inside, layers outside, densely packed. But the round hole was still there. But the cave room was silent. They actually did not hear Madame Scorpion's screams. "What's going on?" Shenming stood up. Actually, she did not need to stand up because everyone's consciousness could cover the entire underground celestial scorpion palace. This underground immortal scorpion palace did not have any restrictions. However, Shenming just wanted to go and have a look. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, as soon as she approached, those spiritual scorpions became restless. In an instant, almost all the scorpions turned around and charged at Shenming. At that moment, there was even a faint black aura surging from the bodies of those spirit scorpions. The hole from before was also shrinking rapidly. Just as Sumo had said, those scorpions were Madame Scorpion's guardians. They did not allow Shenming to get close to the cave. TSK. When Shenming saw this, he couldn't help but twitch his mouth. "Stinky scorpion. I'll make a big pot of stewed scorpions and eat you to death." Shenming knew the severity of the situation and would definitely not step forward. The key was that these spirit scorpions could not block the divine senses of Shenming and the others. At this moment, Wang Yu also opened his eyes. The scene in the cave made them suck in a breath of cold air. Only half of Madame Scorpion's body remained, lying limply on the ground. The other half of her body had completely turned into black poisonous water. Sumo, Wang Yu, Shenming, and Wu Daoyong frowned. At that moment, Madame Scorpion was really like a corpse without any signs of life. She did not breathe, nor did she have any spiritual energy. There was only a faint layer of red light enveloping her body. However, Sumo and the rest knew that Madame Scorpion was still breathing. However, they did not dare to imagine, how could half of Madame Scorpion's body turn into poisonous water? Madame Scorpion did not cry out in pain, because she could no longer cry out in pain. Only half of her head was left. Half of her body was also left. Accurately speaking, she could no longer be considered a person, but half of her skin and flesh. However, even if she did not cry out in pain, they could imagine what kind of torture Madame Scorpion had endured for the past 7 days. They believed that 7 days was definitely inhumane pain. Madame Scorpion laid silently on the ground, and what was left of her body seemed to be continuously turning into poisonous water. Sumo and the rest saw that half of Madame Scorpion's scorpion tail was slowly turning into water. At the same time, Madame Scorpion's body was also twitching slightly. She seems to still be suffering, but she can no longer express it. Shenming frowned. "Yes." Sumo nodded. 9 lives and 9 deaths. I wonder how many she has stopped. If she can survive the last 2 days, she will have succeeded. Chi chi. Chi. At this moment, the spirit scorpions at the entrance of the cave suddenly became agitated. At the same time, Sumo noticed that half of Madame Scorpion's body was melting at a faster speed. Chi chi. The black water on the floor of the cave actually made a swallowing sound. That was the sound of endless black oil frying half of the body. The sound echoed in the cave, strange and ear-piercing. Whoosh! At the same time, the spirit scorpions at the entrance of the cave suddenly turned into black smoke. Huh. Shenming could not help but be slightly stunned. Those spirit scorpions were delicacies. Why did they suddenly turn into smoke? Wasn't it a pity? Death substitution art. Sumo raised her eyebrows. Because he saw the black smoke that the spirit scorpions turned into had all entered Madame Scorpion's body. Death substitution art, as the name suggested, was a technique to substitute death. It seemed that this was a technique that Madame Scorpion had prepared beforehand. These spirit scorpions were dying in place of Madame Scorpion. If not for this technique, Madame Scorpion would not have been able to survive the final death. Looking again, the half of the body seemed to jerk violently, as if it had received an electric shock. Chi-chi, chi-chi. The spirit scorpions at the entrance of the cave continuously turned into black smoke, starting from the first spirit scorpion. However, the spirit scorpions kept appearing, as if there was a spirit scorpion fountain at the entrance of the cave. The black smoke became thicker and gradually sealed the entrance of the cave. The black smoke had a special restriction that could block divine sense. In an instant, Shun Ming and Wu Daoyong could no longer see what was happening in the cave. Sumo and Wang Yu activated their demon eye and ghost eye at almost the same time. In the cave, the black smoke filled the air, and Madame Scorpion's body was gradually disappearing. It seemed that even with the death substitution art, Madame Scorpion could not block the effects of the 9 deaths rejuvenation elixir. Her final life was still going on. After a few hours, Madame Scorpion completely disappeared from the black smoke. There was almost no trace of her in the entire cave. Wang Yu, can you still see Madame Scorpion? Sumo asked Wang Yu. No, she has completely disappeared. Wang Yu frowned. Her aura is completely gone. From what I can see, it is just an empty room filled with black smoke. Me too. Sumo raised her eyebrows. Also, the black smoke is dissipating bit by bit. The spirit scorpions seem to have been used up. There is no more. Madame Scorpion is dead? Shen Ming asked anxiously. Sumo and Wang Yu did not answer, because at this moment, they did not know the answer either. However, the black smoke had not completely dissipated. They still had a glimmer of hope. As time passed, the black smoke slowly dissipated. No one knew where it went. However, Madame Scorpion's figure did not appear. Sumo and Wang Yu could not help but look at each other. After 2 days, the black smoke completely dissipated, but the cave was empty. 9 days had passed. Sumo and Wang Yu's expression darkened. Chapter 984. 9 lives and 9 deaths. There was only a sliver of chance of survival. Sumo understood that Madame Scorpion should have known about this when she decided to consume the 9 deaths rejuvenation pill. In truth, she took a huge risk to consume the pill. It was a gamble of life and death. 9 days had passed. The cave was empty. Madame Scorpion was dead. She did not succeed. She took away all the spirit scorpions that accompanied her day and night in the dark and stinky pond. Sigh. Sumo sighed, not knowing what to say. Wang Yu frowned. Tears rolled down Shun Ming's cheeks. In truth, they only met Madame Scorpion by chance. They did not have much of a history with her. They were not even friends. However, they saw Madame Scorpion's current appearance, heard her story, and witnessed her life and death torture. That was why they wanted to see Madame Scorpion succeed, to see her rejuvenation. However, not all stories in the infinite worlds had the most perfect ending. Sometimes, regret was a different kind of beauty. Elder Scorpion, Wu Daoyong knelt on the ground, then crawled forward. In truth, when Wu Daoyong first met Madame Scorpion, he thought she was a ghost. In the beginning, he was extremely afraid of Madame Scorpion. His obedience came from his initial fear. It was not sincere. Later on, he found out about Madame Scorpion's past, but it was not detailed. That was why, amidst his fear, he felt a sense of pity. However, he came into contact with Madame Scorpion with a sense of opportunism. After all, Madame Scorpion was a 9th stage venerable. Just giving him some benefits would be enough for him. After tens of thousands of years, he did achieve his goal. Slowly, he gained a bit more respect from Madame Scorpion. However, the fear was still there. The main reason why he brought Sumo and the others to meet Madame Scorpion was for himself. However, he did not expect Madame Scorpion to give him her storage pouch before she consumed the pill. That storage pouch was a treasure to Wu Daoyong. It was equivalent to Madame Scorpion leaving her final inheritance to him. That was why Wu Daoyong sincerely hoped that Madame Scorpion could come back to life, even if it was only for 3 days. However, things did not go according to his wishes. Elder Scorpion, Wu Daoyong looked at the empty cave, tears falling like rain. Then, he kowtowed heavily, making a sound when he landed. At that moment, even Sumo was moved. A cultivator's entire life, so what? Madame Scorpion was a 9th-stage venerable. Even in the entire Izong realm, she was a top expert. However, what did she get in these millions of years? She might not even be as happy as a mortal. So what if he was an immortal? Fan, so what? Was her life worth it? Sumo had no answer in her heart. However, this was cultivation, true cultivation, cultivation from life to death. Elder Scorpion, Wu Daoyong wept in grief as he kowtowed and bled. Sumo and Wang Yu did not stop him. After all, this moment was a form of sincere friendship. The hall was empty except for the sound of crying. But suddenly, Xiao Wuzi, why are you crying? Ha ha ha! A clear and melodious laughter that sounded like silver bells came from the originally empty cave. Everyone was shocked, because they only heard the sound but did not see the person. Sumo and Wang Yu's demon pupil and ghost pupil were activated, but they still did not see anything. Fragrance! Shen Ming was the first to shout. A faint fragrance suddenly spread out from the cave. It was the fragrance of a lotus. Looking again, inside the cave, 9 rays of light gradually appeared. This kind of light was extremely gentle and holy. This kind of light, Sumo had seen it on Li Shui's body. It was the light of a lotus. Phew! Inside the cave, wind started to blow. The 9 rays of light gradually converged, slowly forming the delicate and graceful silhouette of a woman. Madame Scorpion, Shen Ming shouted. Elder Scorpion? Wu Daoyong also stopped crying, looking at everything in a daze. Inside the cave, spirit wind blew. A strange fragrance spread. The underground palace of Immortal Scorpion Palace, originally cold and empty, was now filled with warmth. Sumo and Wang Yu were also excited, because they saw hope. They knew Madame Scorpion may have succeeded. Chi, the spirit energy that formed the female figure, occasionally emitted sparks of light. The woman's appearance slowly became clear. Pure white like a lotus, beautiful like jade. At that moment, no one had any thoughts of blasphemy, only beauty. Then, a white lotus appeared under her feet. From the lotus, a golden light came out, landing on the woman's body, turning into a light yellow dress. Beautiful eyebrows, beautiful eyes, slender figure, endless grace. Inside the cave, a peerless beauty stood on top of the white lotus. Graceful and noble, peerless beauty. Sadly, whether it was Sumo, Wang Yu, Shen Ming, or Wu Daoyong, none of them had seen Madame Scorpion's appearance in the past. Madame Scorpion? Shen Ming opened his eyes wide. Elder Scorpion, Wu Daoyong forgot to get up, still kneeling. Madame Scorpion's beautiful eyes turned, smiling. What? Shouldn't I be Madame Scorpion? In the past, I was also considered a beauty. Saying so, Madame Scorpion waved her hand. A water mirror directly appeared in the void. In the water mirror, Madame Scorpion's endless beauty was naturally reflected. Oh, Madame Scorpion laughed happily. You look not bad as expected. It is still me from the past. Congratulations, Madame Scorpion. Sumo was the first to calm down, cupping her hands to pay respect to Madame Scorpion. Congratulations, Madame Scorpion. Wang Yu also cupped his hands with a smile. Madame Scorpion, you are truly a peerless beauty. Shen Ming loudly praised. Madame Scorpion laughed. Little girl, thank you. Then, Madame Scorpion waved her hand again. A gentle force directly supported Wu Daoyong to stand up. Xiao Wu, you are too kind. Elder, it is good that you have endured. Wu Daoyong said. AI, Madam Scorpion sighed. That's right. I have endured. My dream of 1,000,000 years is finally about to be fulfilled. Saying so, Madam Scorpion turned her head to look at Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shun Ming. The three of you, are you disciples of the Azure Mountain Planet's Greenwood sect? Madam, you can tell, Sumo said. Hee hee. Madam Scorpion laughed and shook her head. Your techniques are very special. Although I'm currently at the peak of the first stage of the Lotus Realm, I'm still unable to completely see your true bodies. Just this point alone, I believe that you're not ordinary people. Moreover, if you were really ordinary rebirth realm disciples of the Greenwood sect, you would definitely not be able to refine the 9-death rejuvenation pill so easily. Madam, you are amazing. Sumo laughed. We are indeed not from the Azure Mountain World's Greenwood sect. We are from another world. Madam Scorpion nodded, but did not probe further. Everyone, I have said before that no matter where you are from, or who you are, as long as the pill is completed, you are all my friends. Now, not only is the pill completed, it has also helped me to rejuvenate. I, Madam Scorpion, will definitely repay this kindness. Although that Dark Spirit Scorpion King may not be what you want, I will definitely help you get it. It is definitely a treasure. At the same time, as long as your request does not affect my revenge, I am willing to do my best to help. Although, I only have 3 days to live. Thank you, Madam Scorpion. Sumo laughed. We did not come here for anything important. Madam Scorpion, what do you plan to do next? Revenge. Madam Scorpion's words were simple and cold. Chapter 985. 5 Poison Star was a special star. Even among the dark stars, it was a special existence. Because 5 Poison Star was filled with poisonous gas. It could be said that it was a poisonous star. 5 Poison Star's terrain was very special. It was mountainous, it was hot and humid. Its sky was always covered in a layer of grayish poisonous gas. It was said that this special characteristic made it more suitable for the growth of the 5 poisons. The headquarters of 5 Poison Divine Sect was in an extremely primitive rainforest. In the center of the rainforest, there was an ancient building that was tens of li wide. It was very simple and unadorned. It did not look magnificent, but the entire ancient building exuded a very special aura. Primitive and ancient. An ancient house, it was not eye-catching. A male cultivator with a handsome face and a well-defined body. He wore a black robe, sitting cross-legged inside the ancient house. The black robe was embroidered with golden patterns. Scorpion, centipede, snake, toad, lizard, the 5 poisonous creatures were all hidden in the patterns. Inside the ancient house, there were not many decorations. The entire house looked very simple. Other than a praying mat, there was nothing else. This place was like a secret room used for meditation. The male cultivator had his eyes closed, as if he was cultivating, but at this moment he suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze was very special. At that moment, there seemed to be a flicker of light, but it was quickly extinguished. His eyes were swallowed by darkness. Then his lips curled into a cold smile. Then he raised his right hand, middle finger, index finger, and thumb. A black lotus suddenly appeared. Pooh! The black-robed cultivator lightly blew. The black lotus floated up, passed through the wall, and flew out of the ancient house. At the same time, Madam Scorpion had already brought Sumo and the rest, stopping in a valley thousands of li away. That valley was a bit special. It was twisted and turned. The cliffs on both sides were like scales. The entire valley was long and narrow. If one looked from above, it would look like a dark brown snake. This is Dark Snake Valley. Back then, the 21 of us cultivated here. Madam Scorpion floated in the air above Dark Snake Valley, feeling a bit emotional. However, after the Great War, this place was the main battlefield, so it was abandoned. Madam Scorpion said as she led the group forward. Soon, Sumo and the rest saw many traces of spells and divine weapons on the cliffs. So on the walls of this valley, there were many cave dwellings. However, Those immortals' caves were all deserted. Occasionally, there were remnants of spells, but they were like Willow, the wisps in tombs. The entire Dark Snake Valley was filled with the aura of death. Rather than a valley, it was more like a tomb. "Sis, what are we doing here?" Shunming asked softly from behind. "Didn't Madam Scorpion just say it?" "We're here to find the Dark Scorpion King," Wang Yu complained. "Didn't you hear? What are you thinking about? I wonder what's delicious on the 5-poison star." Shunming pouted. 5 poisons on star. The 5 poisons on the 5-poison star are all delicious, Madam Scorpion said from the front. "In a while, if we can find the Dark Spirit Scorpion King, there will definitely be other spirit scorpions or poisonous insects. As long as you know how to cook, we will definitely not lack ingredients." "Really?" Shunming's eyes lit up. "Of course," Madam Scorpion said. Shunming, who was initially disinterested, instantly became spirited. They made several turns. This Dark Serpent Valley could really be considered as 9 twists and turns. Finally, Madam Scorpion stopped in front of a rather spacious cave. Sumo and the others fixed their eyes on the cave and saw a strange talisman pattern carved in front of the cave. It was a scorpion crawling on the ground, but its single tail was raised high. "This place used to be my old abode," Madam Scorpion said slowly. "When the 21 people were cultivating, I cultivated here. It was also here that I gave my everything to my senior brother. This cave once had 9 floors." Silence. After a while, Madam Scorpion spoke again. "I know. After that battle, this place became the abode of the Dark Spirit Scorpion King. I once saw a Dark Spirit Scorpion King here. If I'm not wrong, it should still be here." Madam Scorpion said, "Today, I will take it and give it to the 3 of you as a token of my sincerity." As she spoke, Madam Scorpion formed a seal with one hand. Immediately, a small green snake jumped out of her palm. The small snake was not more than 7 inches long and only as thick as a thumb. However, it was extremely agile. The moment it appeared, it landed on the cliff and quickly crawled into the cave. "Madam Scorpion, what snake is that?" Shunming asked curiously. 5 azure snake. It is the favorite food of the Dark Spirit Scorpion. Its body could emit a strange odor. If the Dark Spirit Scorpion King is still in the cave, then it can definitely lure it out. At that time, I will have a way to capture it. Is the 5 azure snake delicious?" Shunming asked. "Hee hee." Madam Scorpion laughed and shook her head. "I don't know, because there are no cultivators on the 5 poison star who eat it as spirit food. Only the 5 poison star will eat the 5 azure snake. Smelling it, it seems to have a fishy smell." "Oh." Shunming nodded in disappointment, then asked again, "How is the Dark Spirit Scorpion King's battle power?" "It is around the Venerable Realm. However, its poison is very powerful. Even a high-level Venerable would have to avoid it. Otherwise, the 3-headed Spirit Scorpion King would have been captured long ago," Madam Scorpion said. Shunming nodded his head after hearing that. At this moment, a loud sound suddenly came from the cave. Boom! The entire Dark Snake Valley seemed to be shaking. Inside the cave, a living creature rolled out. Madam Scorpion laughed. "Looks like that evil creature is still here. We made the right choice this time. The rest of you, stand back. You don't have to do anything later. Be careful, don't hurt you." Hearing this, Sumo and the other 2 naturally retreated. Boom! Boom! The sound inside the cave grew louder, as if a giant monster was running out of the cave. Chi! Chi! Suddenly, the 5 azure snake shot out of the cave abode. It was fast enough that it resembled a slender green flying sword. However, just as it flew, a large green pincer flew out of the cave. That huge pincer was 100 feet long. It grabbed the 5 azure snake like a giant ape holding a needle. Originally, Sumo and the rest thought that the 5 azure snake would definitely be able to escape, because the gap between the pincer was more than a foot wide. However, they were wrong. Whoosh! The 5 azure snake was caught by the large pincer. More accurately, it was caught by the large pincer, because after the pincer closed, it did not touch the 5 azure snake. However, the 5 azure snake could not escape. An invisible force stuck to it. Boom! Suddenly, the door of the scorpion cave was smashed open. An incomparably huge, greenish-brown scorpion suddenly rushed out. There was still a lot of soil and stones on its body. It seemed that it had broken through many obstacles along the way. Once it appeared, it almost occupied the entire valley. When the 5 azure snake entered its mouth, the giant scorpion let out an extremely strange sound. At this moment, Madame Scorpion made her move. She took out a talisman. It was a fire-colored talisman. It expanded in the wind, like a small sea of fire, directly covering the dark spirit Scorpion King. Chapter 986. Who? As soon as the fire talisman appeared, it covered the entire sky. Madame Scorpion's talisman suppressed the dark spirit Scorpion King. The light of the fire talisman seemed to make the spirit scorpion quiver. It was about to turn its head. However, the space in Dark Snake Valley was limited. The dark spirit Scorpion King was more than 100 jong tall, so it was not convenient for it to turn around. At the same time, the immortal energy contained within the fire talisman started to suppress it. Chi. The dark spirit Scorpion King's body emitted a strange scraping sound. The voice was extremely hoarse and harsh. Sumo, Wang Yu, and the others couldn't help but frown. Looking again, the dark spirit Scorpion King's body had suddenly shrunk by 3 times. The light of the fire was glaring like the sun, and the entire Dark Snake Valley was lit up. The dark spirit Scorpion King was naturally afraid of light. After shrinking its body, it naturally wanted to escape back to its cave. But Madame Scorpion was the ancestor of raising and controlling scorpions. Plus, this cave was where she cultivated. How about you let her go back? Madame Scorpion sneered and formed a seal with her hands. Seal, she shouted softly. The entrance of the scorpion cave suddenly lit up with a mysterious light. The runes that were originally broken and abandoned were suddenly awakened, as if they had been reborn. Profound light crisscrossed, dense like a net, and the scorpion cave was instantly sealed up. Bang! Chi. The dark spirit Scorpion King slammed into the mysterious light, and its 2 large scorpion pincers emitted a charred smell. The dark spirit Scorpion King was extremely venomous, but it was not a ferocious beast. It liked humidity and was afraid of light and special smells. At this moment, its heart was filled with fear, but this only aroused its ferocity, because it was already trapped in the Dark Snake Valley and had nowhere to go. It turned around and pounced towards Madame Scorpion. 2 large scorpion pincers went straight for Madame Scorpion. Madame Scorpion stood in the air and coldly laughed. Evil creature, you are truly audacious. You actually dare to hurt your mistress? Madame Scorpion waved her hand. Who? As she waved her hand, 2 beams of yellow light appeared out of thin air and went straight for the 2 scorpion pincers. In the past, Madame Scorpion could command thousands of spirit scorpions, let alone now that she was in the Lotus Realm. As soon as the 2 rays of profound light appeared, they directly locked onto the 2 scorpion pincers. It was impossible for them to open. Hoo-woo. However, the dark spirit Scorpion King actually turned its claws into hammers and smashed towards Madame Scorpion. An evil gust of wind howled in the air. However, when the pincer was 3 feet away from Madame Scorpion's head, it suddenly stopped. Humph! Madame Scorpion sneered. Now, it was impossible for the dark spirit Scorpion King to hurt him. If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted to capture a live spiritual scorpion for Sumo, Madame Scorpion could have killed it with a wave of her hand. Looking again, the dark spirit Scorpion King's pincers were useless, so it fiercely swung its tail. Scorpion claws and scorpion tails were the spirit scorpion's main attack methods. The scorpion tail was over 100 feet long, and when it was raised, it looked like a long whip. The spirit scorpion's venom was mainly in its tail. Even a 9-stage Venerable Realm cultivator would be in danger if they were stung by the spiritual scorpion. Chi. The scorpion's tail tore through the air. It seemed to be carrying lightning, and it was comparable to a top-grade supreme divine weapon. In the void, sparks flew in all directions. The power was extremely great. Sumo and the others, who were watching the battle from behind, frowned again. Even if Sumo wanted to subdue this spiritual scorpion, it would take her some effort. However, Madame Scorpion's expression was calm, and she was not afraid at all. She raised one of her hands and gently pinched it with her fingers. A lotus petal appeared on the tip of her finger. The lotus petal expanded in the wind and instantly turned into a white giant shield. Bang! The dark spirit Scorpion King's scorpion tail slammed into the lotus petal. The lotus petal was unscathed, but the scorpion tail was directly repelled. The dark spirit Scorpion King could not break Madame Scorpion's technique. Chi-chi, squeak. The dark spirit Scorpion King's body vibrated once again, as if it was gathering all of its strength. Then, the scorpion tail coiled around the lotus petal, and it wanted to stab Madame Scorpion again. However, Madame Scorpion did not give the dark spirit Scorpion King the chance to do so. Seal. Madame Scorpion's hand seal changed. The lotus petal expanded once again, and it had a radius of 100 feet. It was like a sky curtain, and it fell on the dark spirit Scorpion King. In the face of absolute power, everything was useless. The dark spirit Scorpion King could not escape from Madame Scorpion's palm no matter what. Just as its scorpion tail moved, the lotus petal had already fallen. Whoosh! The lotus petal fell and directly covered the entire scorpion. The scorpion struggled fiercely inside. However, no matter how hard it struggled, it could not break the lotus petal. At that moment, Sumo could not help but think. The power of the Lotus Warrior is really unbelievable. If I was sealed by the lotus petal, I might not be able to break free without Lianbua. At that moment, Madame Scorpion lightly shouted, "Retract!" Looking again, the lotus petal suddenly emitted endless white light, and then it quickly shrunk. 100 feet, 10 feet, 1 foot. The Dark Snake Valley had almost returned to its original appearance. In the end, the lotus petal actually shrunk to the size of a palm. Madame Scorpion faintly smiled, and then opened one of her hands. Whoosh! The lotus petal directly flew over and landed on Madame Scorpion's white and slender palm. The lotus petal glowed, and within the circle of light, there was a 3-inch scorpion that was crawling. However, it was no longer greenish-brown, and its entire body was shining with endless black light. It's subdued. Shunming was the first to shout. "Little brother, this is for you. Now, it has been completely subdued by me. In the future, this lotus petal will be its container, and I will also give it to you." The Dark Spirit Scorpion King is a wild animal. Because of its low intelligence, very few cultivators would take it alive. However, this is a living Dark Spirit Scorpion King. As long as you can control it, it will definitely be of great use. Saying that, Madame Scorpion shook her hand and directly sent it in front of Sumo. "Thank you, Senior." Sumo did not refuse politely and took it with both hands. Then, she directly put it in her cosmos sack. This Dark Spirit Scorpion King would definitely be of great use in the future. Finding the Dark Spirit Scorpion King for you, at least one of my worries has been lifted. Madame Scorpion looked in the direction of the 5 Poison Sacred Sect. It is time for me to do my own things. Everyone, if there's nothing else, let's part here. Madame Scorpion looked at Sumo, Wang Yu, and Shunming and said, "This time, it will be a big battle. Life or death, victory or defeat. It is hard to predict. You don't need to get involved in this mess. Xiaowu, you should also temporarily return to the immortal Scorpion Star to hide. If, within 3 days, I cannot return to find you. Take care, and take care of yourself." Elder Scorpion, Wu Daoyong naturally did not want to leave. "You coming with me will not help at all. If something happens, I still have to take care of you. If you don't go, it will definitely be beneficial to me." Madame Scorpion smiled and said. This, Wu Daoyong knew that Madame Scorpion was right. He was only a rebirth realm cultivator in the 5 Poison Sacred Sect. He would be instantly killed. "Go!" Madame Scorpion did not say anything else and directly waved her hand. Under Wu Daoyong's feet, a formation immediately appeared. Before he could react, the formation was already activated. Wu Daoyong instantly disappeared. Seeing this scene, Sumo could not help but smile. Madame Scorpion, don't worry. The three of us will definitely not be your trouble. We definitely have the ability to protect ourselves. At the crucial moment, we might even be able to lend you a hand. Madame Scorpion listened and nodded with a smile. That's good. Let us go together to the Five Poison Sacred Palace. Just as Madame Scorpion finished speaking, the sky above the Dark Snake Valley suddenly changed color, and the sky suddenly darkened. A black lotus actually appeared out of nowhere, as big as a floating city. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.